Chapter 605. Wrapping up the projection after harvesting the ripe medicinal herbs, Guwen left alone, while the ghost mother of ephemera started to sow as usual. Guwen did not return to his own yard, he just picked a random direction to walk. As he walked, he fiddled with the fate pen. He seemed to be enjoying the scenery along the way, but he was actually watching Zhang Buku, who was far away in the Tai's great world. Zhang Buku had taken root in the Tai's great world and had even established a demon race force. Su Yu, a reincarnation from the celestial court, assisted him by teaching him the Qi fortune method, which made his demon race force stronger and made cultivation easier and more fortunate for those under his command. Seeing Zhang Buku's accomplishments now, Guwen was very pleased. At least Zhang Buku did not have to wander everywhere, he had found his own life goal. What would senior brother Zhang's feelings be like if he were still alive and saw his son commanding the winds and clouds? With this thought, Guwen felt even better. The advantage of staying in the human world is that there are always different things happening, something even the immortal gods may not experience. Even if many things seem similar, they always present differently when experienced by different people. After an hour, Guwen arrived at a waterfall and sat on the rocks by the river. Then he began to perform lifespan projection. Please choose the great Tao you want to pursue. Path of cause and effect. This was the great Tao Guwen was most skilled in. Consumption of 100 billion years of lifespan, do you wish to continue? What the hell? 1 trillion years of lifespan. Guwen cursed internally, he knew the new features would not be so easy to use. The later the features were released, the greater the consumption of lifespan. He subconsciously wanted to choose to refuse, but on second thought, there was a reason behind the high cost. At least, he wanted to see how expensive it was. If not satisfactory, he could simply seal this feature forever. Continue. You have chosen to consume 100 billion years of lifespan to activate lifespan projection. Starting projection. Projected onto the Taiwei Great World. Projected onto the Taichin Great World. Projected onto the 9 Nether Great World. Prompt after prompt continually popped up before Guwen's eyes, arousing his curiosity. He could actually see the specific worlds being projected. Guwen saw the Tai's great world where Zhang Buku was, and he also saw the profound pure great world visited by the Black Profound Emperor. He even saw worlds that were not named as great worlds. Though he only saw the names, it was enough to let his thoughts run wild. Soon, all the prompts settled down. It really had projected 3,000 worlds. Guwen reflected on this, but soon he felt that something was amiss. The projection was finished, then what? Guwen furrowed his brows, he was puzzled but not rushed, he sat on the rock patiently waiting. Time swiftly passed. About half an hour later, 2 prompts appeared before him. Begin to consolidate the projection. Begin the transmission of the great Tao's insights. The spiritual energy within the Taoist field of the beginningless suddenly stopped, causing everyone in the dojo to open their eyes. Before Guwen could think further, endless insights of the great Tao surged into his mind, plunging his consciousness into chaos. At the edge of the Taoist field of the beginningless, at the entrance of the dojo, stood a stone door built by an exit. Xianxia the Novel Fire. Net * website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Outside the stone door was a dense fog, appearing very mysterious. A figure emerged from the thick fog and stepped through the stone door. It was Tian Hao. Tian Hao advanced with a dragon's stride and a tiger's pace, with 3 differently shaped long spears, each about 10 feet long, floating behind him in a fan formation. He wore a smug smile on his face, muttering to himself, "This time I will definitely surprise Master." However, no sooner had the words left his mouth than he suddenly stopped, furrowing his brow as he looked towards the distant mountains with a look of surprise and doubt in his eyes. Why isn't the spiritual energy in the dojo moving? There was also an uncomfortably erratic force. He immediately leaped up, transforming into a rainbow light that flew away, quickly vanishing over the other side of the mountains. After a while, everyone gathered by a small river, whispering among themselves as they watched Guwen meditating on a rock across the river. Tian Hao was there too, looking at Guwen with curiosity. This was the first time he had seen his master enter a state of sudden enlightenment. In his eyes, his master was already the most powerful being. Could he possibly have an epiphany in such a Tao practice? Could master be about to break through? Senior brothers, senior sisters, what realm has master reached? Has he obtained the Taoist Xianxia Immortal realm? Tian Hao couldn't help but ask. Taoist Xianxia Immortal was a realm he had heard about in the last few decades, belonging to a great cultivator from the Tao court, capable of moving mountains and overturning seas. No one answered him because the others did not know Gu An's realm either. Blood Prison Great Saint scoffed. Brat, you only need to know that master is stronger than anyone you've ever met. Even those who created this world are far inferior to master. Tian Hao, stirred by these words, inquired further, have you ever seen master engage in a fight? Not just sparring. He was the top disciple of the Qianquan sect, a leader of the younger generation, often going out on missions and establishing great merits for the Qianquan sect. He had been through many life and death battles, and he was infatuated with that feeling. Fierce opponents indeed made for stronger challengers than those in sparring combat. LV Xian laughed and said, I have, but no one could withstand even one move from your master. Ghost Mother of Ephemera added, no matter how powerful, facing your master means meeting their end by a single sword strike. LV Xian grew enthusiastic and continued, it's time for you lad to know about some of your master's past deeds. He began narrating stories from the Supreme Sect, and an Xian and Xinjian, who usually didn't chat with Tian Hao, occasionally chimed in, along with the Blood Prison Great Saint, thus unveiling the past of Guan. Even Xianxia and Shengtian, Celestial Demon Child, Celestial Cyan, Tian Bai, Qinchuan, and Ghost Mother of Ephemera learned about events they hadn't heard of before. From helping small sects establish the righteous Tao, to saving continents, oceans, and even the world, all could feel Gu N's heart turning towards profound goodness. After saving all living beings, Guan had chosen to leave the Supreme Sect, live in seclusion here, and had supported the Qianquan sect, which only increased their admiration. The Qianquan sect remains an orthodox Taoist sect to this day. Though occasionally committing wrongful acts, most disciples still act by the code of chivalry, and even the Tao court wouldn't easily declare war on an orthodox Taoist sect like the Qianquan sect. Tian Hao listened intently, his mindset gradually changing. Although Guan had not taught him much directly since he was young, he had always admired his master, who had fostered him. In his youth, every act and word of Guan had inspired him. He wanted to become like Guan. Perhaps, I should not seek to become stronger just for the sake of being strong. Tian Hao watched Guan, who was still meditating across the river, and reflected silently. The others were still marveling at past events, which now seemed very distant, giving them an unreal feeling. Suddenly, Guan opened his eyes, and the entire Taoist field of the beginningless returned to normal. Spiritual energy flowed again, and the path of cause and effect no longer ran wild. The first thing he saw upon opening his eyes was Tian Hao across the river. Master and disciple locked eyes, Tian Hao's gaze intense. When he saw his master's eyes open, his heart skipped a beat in fear. Guan narrowed his eyes, and with just one look, he saw the entirety of Tian Hao's trillion-year lifespan. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 606 Tian Hao and Gu and the embodiments of beings from the 3,000 worlds all once pursued the path of cause and effect, exhausting their lifetimes of energy and time. Although Guan was unclear how long they had lived or what realm they had ultimately reached, their insights into the path of cause and effect, when gathered together, were incredibly vast. Guan looked at Tian Hao, whose future rapidly unfolded before his eyes. 200 million years. 300 million years. 500 million years. Suddenly, Tian Hao's billion-year lifespan was all within his sight. Guan saw countless destiny lines on him, among which one shone the brightest. That was the destiny undisturbed by the power of the current great worlds, a life path predestined by the heavens. Following this line, Guan could see all that would come to pass for him. Tian Hao would become the strongest fighter in the celestial spirit great world. He would travel the path of the great Tao, he would challenge other great thousand worlds, and he would even venture into realms above the great thousand worlds. CTH Novelfire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. This was the path of a legend, and he had never known failure. Feeling Gu N's gaze, Tian Hao was very nervous. He lowered his eyes, not daring to look back. The others also sensed a sharp aura emanating from Guan, and none dared to speak, thinking they might have been too noisy and disturbed him, causing his displeasure. Everyone was tense. It was their first time seeing Guan angry. Fortunately, it wasn't long before the chill on Guan's face dissipated. "Why are you all looking at me?" Guan asked with a smile. Seeing his familiar smile, everyone breathed a sigh of relief and followed suit, smiling. Senior Sister Anshin was the first to ask, "Master, did you just have a moment of sudden enlightenment?" Guan replied, an epiphany indeed. All right, disperse now. You don't expect me to discuss my insights into this realm with you, do you? Upon hearing this, everyone showed an embarrassed look. They dared not probe, especially since they didn't know what realm Guan was in. They paid their respects in turn and took their leave. However, Tian Hao stayed. He leaped over a stream and came to Guan's side, asking, "Master, the Tao Court is holding a grand event of peerless prodigies that claims to take place only once every 10,000 years. Do you think I should participate? I want to, but the elders in the sect fear I might encounter danger. The Tao Court is the common master of the world. They wouldn't do such a thing, right?" Many famous prodigies had trained at the Tao Court, and it hadn't schemed against them. Guan answered, "One must always guard against others. Your biggest problem now is that you haven't faced hardship or defeat. That's also a good thing. Your master hopes that you never face defeat." Tian Hao's eyes widened as he said loudly, "That's not true. I've only ever lost to you." "You brat, still talking about winning and losing with your master? Then how about you try losing to me?" I was wrong, I was just spouting nonsense." Tian Hao quickly apologized after being glared at by Guan. After that, Guan asked about his experiences over the years, and he answered truthfully, his spirits high. Guan understood Tian Hao's thoughts. The kid had always been looking for an opportunity to spend quality time with him. Before coming of age, although both were in the dojo, Guan didn't accompany him in play the entire time. Of course, what the kid wanted most was Guan's praise. Yet Guan just wouldn't satisfy him. This kid is already proud enough. He must leave some room for improvement, lest his tail lift up to the sky. While chatting, Tian Hao leaned against the rock, looking up at Guan. He did not sit beside Guan. He was indeed very conceited, but he was filled with reverence for Guan. He did not want to break that attitude. He hoped he would always revere his master, so he would have a goal. So many seniors had been surpassed by him, making him feel that the path of immortal cultivation was very simple. Only when compared with his master did he feel motivated and full of anticipation. He hoped his master would always be stronger than him so that he wouldn't feel alone on the path of immortal cultivation. From Tian Hao's words, Guan could feel his sense of belonging to the Qingkuan sect, and that his achievements had not led to any contempt for his own sect, which made Guan all the more satisfied with him. The sect hierarch of the Qingkuan sect, Yi Qingshan, was the reincarnation of his disciple, Lu Jiujia. Guan had his reasons for letting them establish karma, but if the Qingkuan sect were to stray from the right path, he would not blindly support it. Whether the heavenly Tao or the great Tao should be sentimental, Guan didn't know. He only knew he wanted to follow a path of sentiment. He didn't want to set too many rules and restrictions for himself. He would simply follow his heart. If he wanted to pity all living beings, then he would pity them. If he didn't want to get close to someone, he would keep his distance. The greatest kindness he could offer to all things was not to kill indiscriminately. "By the way, Master, they told me a lot about your past. Out of the many disciples you've taken, who is your favorite?" Tian Hao suddenly asked out of curiosity. Guan glanced at him and he quickly added, "Other than me." "You wish, how could it possibly be you?" Guan replied, a little irritated. Tian Hao didn't feel embarrassed, just chuckled. Guan then said, My favorite disciple should be Hao. He was the first disciple I truly took to heart to teach, and also the first I adopted. He is just like you, born with the strongest talent. Hao's eyes lit up and he asked, "Is that senior sister Angxin's brother?" He had heard Hao's name before, but the people in the dojo did not talk much about him, as if they were apprehensive. They come from the same village. Guwen began to recount Hao's life. Hao listened intently. This time, Guwen spoke at length, which made Hao feel very happy, feeling closer to his master. They talked until dusk. The sky was streaked with crimson, and the celestial vault was desolately beautiful. After hearing Hao's life story, Hao's mood was hard to calm for a long time. Guwen looked at Hao and asked, "Where do you think you are better than Hao, and where do you fall short?" Hao pondered and said, "I wouldn't abandon my kin like he did, but I don't seem to have his resolve either. He could sacrifice himself for the people of the world, but I can't do it. I would only give my all for the Qianquan sect." Guwen smiled, not judging Hao's thoughts. He looked up into the twilight sky and said softly, "Hao, I gave you the name Hao indeed because of Hao. I hoped you would go further than he did. As your teacher, I won't demand anything specific from you. You may choose not to sacrifice yourself for all living beings, but never, by virtue of your own strength, wantonly bully the weak. You must realize that no one can stay strong forever." Hao smiled and said, "Don't worry, master. If you inquire at the Qianquan sect, you will find out I never bully others. I only uphold justice." As he spoke, he raised his right hand, used his palm as a sword, and made a few gestures in the air. Only in front of Guwen and the ghost mother of ephemera did he show his childlike side. To others, he was the proud, reticent senior disciple of the Qianquan sect. Guwen watched him and asked with a smile, "Do you know how vast outer heaven is? How many worlds like the celestial spirit great world are there?" Hao's interest piqued. He eagerly asked how large and how many great worlds there were. Guwen began to tell him about the existence of other great thousand worlds, as well as the most talented and fortuitous prodigies of various great worlds, which aroused his passion, his eyes brimming with fighting spirit. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 607, The Great Cause and Effect Steel, The Path of Power. After talking with his master for a day, Hao had gained a greater knowledge and developed an even bigger longing for immortal cultivation. Thereafter, he went to the Dao court with a heart full of fighting spirit. Dozens of years later, Hao's reputation spread throughout all the overlord-level forces in the world, and any cultivator who wasn't in some remote area had heard of his name. At the grand gathering of the ages, he overwhelmed the heroes of the world and became the unrivaled #1 talent of all time. The zenith of acclaim spurred Hao to cultivate even harder, and every breakthrough upon his return from the Dao court caused tremors across the world. Time flew by. 20,000 years passed in the blink of an eye. The human world presented a new pattern, and although the Dao court remained the most powerful sect, many strong Daoist lineages had emerged. If they combined forces, they had the power to overturn the Dao court. The self-proclaimed righteous Dao court never initiated war against sects or imperial dynasties, so the human world remained at peace, though only relatively peaceful from a macrocosmic perspective of heaven and earth. In the Daoist field of the beginningless, the lowest cultivation level had already reached the heaven and earth flying immortal realm. LV Xian, an Exin, blood prison great saint, and celestial demon child had all become carefree primordial immortals. As for Hao, he had reached the divine immortal of wondrous Dharma realm, and moreover, he was at the 9th floor of that cultivation level. Any talent paled in comparison to him, and coupled with the 3 Dao treasures gifted to him by Guwen, nobody could challenge him below the realm of Daoist Zhongzhizai Immortal. Those 3 Dao treasures were 3 long spears, named Divine Punishment, Celestial Punishment, and Immortal Punishment, each containing different powers of the Great Dao. Regarding Guwen's favoritism towards Hao, the other disciples in the dojo had no objections. They wholeheartedly acknowledged Hao's talent. Even the blood prison great saint could do nothing but admire him. As 20,000 years had gone by, Tianhao was now someone they all aspired to chase after. Beneath the starry sky, atop a massive mountain peak, there sat a serene palace. Within the palace, Xiaoyu was meditating on a jade platform, surrounded by wisps of gray-tinged energy, a manifestation of the power of the great Tao. A figure appeared atop the palace. It was the Sun and Moon Nether Emperor. The Sun and Moon Nether Emperor bowed deeply and, looking up at Xiaoyu, spoke, "Your Majesty, Tianhao, known as the #1 talent of the world, has come to the Yin-Yang Immortal domain. He has stepped into our territory, seeking the Yin-Yang rebirth flower. He seems determined to obtain it, and with the 3 ultimate treasures in his grasp, each possessing power not inferior to heaven and earth ultimate treasures, our people cannot stop him." As he mentioned Tianhao, his expression was incredibly complicated. 20,000 years ago, he had heard rumors of a peerlessly gifted talent born in the central area of the great world. He thought those rumors were exaggerated, but having now encountered Tianhao, he realized they were no exaggeration. In fact, they might have even underestimated him. Compared to Tianhao's talent for cultivation, his talent for battle was even more prodigious. Sir the Nelfire. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Xiaoyu slowly opened her eyes, overlooking the Sun and Moon Nether Emperor, and asked, "You mentioned earlier he came from the Qiankuan sect. What is the background of this Qiankuan sect?" The Sun and Moon Nether Emperor answered, "Strangely enough, the Qiankuan sect lacks any great power but has nurtured such an extraordinary talent. Oh, I've also heard there is an immortal protecting the sacred land of the Qiankuan sect, guarding only their homeland. I'm not sure if that's true." Hearing this, a flicker of intrigue crossed Xiaoyu's eyes. She was silent for a moment, then said, "Let him advance. Allow him to reach the other domains, and there's no need to inform the other 3 emperors." The Sun and Moon Nether Emperor was surprised but asked no further questions, promptly taking his leave. Xiaoyu gazed out at the starry sky, murmuring to herself, "Is it you, Tianhao, and how you truly are formidable, always able to cultivate peerlessly distinguished talents." As she calculated with her fingers, her expression grew increasingly complex. Tianhao's rate of cultivation was simply too mesmerizing, making her feel as if all past distinguished talents were inconsequential. At this rate, in less than 1,000,000 years, Tianhao would become the foremost figure of this era. Perhaps even the legendary Xianxia of the past would be but a stepping stone for him. Xiaoyu took a deep breath, her gaze towards the starry sky gradually firming. Perhaps it was truly time for her to take that step. In the early morning, Guan was accompanying Shenzhen in painting, next to a waterfall, by a mountain with beautiful scenery. Shenzhen was painting a celestial spirit god vanquishing demons, while Guan painted Xiaoyu meditating. Shenzhen glanced at Guan and scoffed, "It seems you really miss your 3rd Mississippi. Why don't you go find her in reincarnation?" Guan answered, "She is not in the cycle of reincarnation." Shenzhen showed no interest in Xiaoyu. Seeing Guan's response, she did not press further and instead turned to ask, "Look at my painting, does it capture the likeness of the fairy?" Her understanding of the path of cause and effect was growing stronger. Even though her cultivation level was much lower than that of the celestial spirit god, she was able to depict the celestial spirit god's past without him noticing. Guan glanced at her painting and said, "Not bad, but isn't it rather uninteresting to only probe into his past? This process allows me to deepen my understanding of the great Tao. Besides, what I can see is far from boring," Shenzhen said proudly. The celestial spirit god was, in her view, second only to Guan. Unable to depict Guan, she could only paint the celestial spirit god. Guan spoke with a profound tone. "Perhaps you should create a divine skill, a skill that only you can wield." Divine skills? Shenzhen pondered thoughtfully. Her cultivation level was also that of a wandering immortal, and that was even without putting much effort into her immortal cultivation, so she grew increasingly confident, even believing that she would eventually surpass Tianhao. Although Guan did not think she could catch up to Tianhao, her potential indeed seemed limitless. This was not solely due to the power of cause and effect from Fairy Yaoxian, but also the great cause and effect steel used by the Emperor of Eternal Life. The great cause and effect steel stood within the river of cause and effect, a manifestation of the great Tao itself, eternally indestructible within the great Tao. The existence of the great cause and effect steel was unimaginable. With the Emperor of Eternal Lives' sacrifice, some of the steel's power had spread to Xianxia. As she lived longer, this power became ever stronger. Guwen could see through everyone's future, but Xianxia's future was becoming increasingly obscured in his eyes, a power dissolving her cause and effect, which made him have greater expectations for her. While Xianxia was lost in thought, Guwen contemplated his own Tao. He felt it was necessary to focus on developing a second great Tao. Relying on the Taoist dominator skill, Guwen had begun to glimpse the 3,000 great Tao, but that was just understanding, not mastery. He wanted to master a formidable great Tao, not as unfathomable as cause and effect, fate, or reincarnation, but rather pure strength. Like the bright sun in the sky, glorious, upright, with awe-inspiring might. The 3,000 great Tao was just a collective term. The actual number of Tao was uncertain, with Guwen having glimpsed more than 3,000. He wished to choose the most vigorous among these Tao. Pure strength. After much contemplation, Guwen decided on the path of power. The path of power wasn't simply about physical strength but represented all types of power at their peak. That was the path of power. To prove the Tao with power meant to prove it with great magical power, with chi power. The path of power was ubiquitous. All beings that possessed strength, that could cultivate mana, demonic power, or any other power-focused cultivation, existed because of the path of power. Guwen immediately employed the lifespan projection and chose the path of power. Still consuming 1 trillion years of lifespan, various prompts wildly popped up before him. But this time was different. He suddenly saw the celestial spirit great world. Almost instantly, he sensed some changes in the celestial spirit great world. It seemed an extra person had appeared. Guwen calculated with his fingers, his expression growing even more peculiar. He couldn't calculate the projected being, but he did foresee Tianhao encountering a formidable opponent in the yin-yang immortal domain, marking the first time Tianhao had failed to conquer a being of the same realm. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 608. Manipulating Fate. Tianhao couldn't defeat the existence that appeared blurred in the causality deduction, but Guwen could see it through his hard eye. The appearance of that being was different from his, but his intuition told him that this was his projected self. After escaping Tianhao, the projected self turned around and jumped into the sea of reincarnation in the yin-yang immortal domain, entered reincarnation, and disappeared from sight. Start retracting the projected self. Start inheriting the great Tao insights. 2 prompts popped up, interrupting Guwen's thoughts. He vanished from his spot and appeared at the edge of the dojo, starting to inherit the great Tao insights. It wasn't long before a disturbance occurred within the Taoist field of the beginningless, alarming everyone. Since such an event had occurred before, the dojo disciples merely glanced in the direction of Guwen and then continued to cultivate, not bothering Guwen. Under the starry sky, clad in golden robes, Tianhao stood by the sea, staring at the dark waves ahead, his brow furrowed in thought. A figure descended from the sky and landed beside him. It was the Sun and Moon Nether Emperor. The two had had many dealings and shared a decent camaraderie. "Are you still thinking about that person?" the Sun and Moon Nether Emperor asked. Tianhao took a deep breath, looked ahead and said, "Yes, I felt pressure from someone of the same realm for the first time." The Sun and Moon Nether Emperor consoled, "Even if it's the same realm, he must be much older than you, and he didn't defeat you, so why bother?" In his opinion, Tianhao already had the greatest talent. He had witnessed the previous battle. The opponent was indeed fearsome, but Tianhao didn't lose. It was just hard to determine who was better. Their encounter made the Sun and Moon Nether Emperor question life. The battle of the divine immortal of wondrous Dharma had even a divine thought-true immortal like him terrified. Had this genius from the old era been outclassed? He felt that Tianhao would surpass him sooner rather than later, and much quicker than he had anticipated. I can't let it go, I feel excited. I'm recalling his combat techniques. He didn't use many divine skills or spells, he simply countered me with pure mana and chi power, truly a display of one force breaks 10,000 laws. Tianhao sincerely remarked, feeling very exhilarated. Indeed, Master was right, never underestimate the world, you never know where a strong contender with great fortune might emerge. His talent might truly be the best, but he had lived too short a life and still needed to continuously strengthen his Taoist techniques. Hearing Tianhao's words, the Sun and Moon Nether Emperor opened his mouth, not knowing what to say, unable to grasp Tianhao's thoughts. What are your plans next? You got what you wanted, the Sun and Moon Nether Emperor asked. Facing a genius like Tianhao, he chose to make a strong connection, having a premonition that this connection might save his life one day. Tianhao withdrew his gaze, looked at the Sun and Moon Nether Emperor, and smiled, planning to go back. Not being able to sweep through the same realm shows that my combat ability is not enough. I will go into seclusion to cultivate for a while before venturing out again. If you ever come to the Nine-Spirit Continent, seek me out. I won't let you down. The Sun and Moon Nether Emperor showed a smile, getting such a promise from Tianhao was all he wanted. It at least proved that Tianhao was still willing to maintain their friendship. Then Tianhao bowed to the Sun and Moon Nether Emperor and transformed into a beam of extreme light, leaping up and quickly vanishing into the horizon. The Sun and Moon Nether Emperor watched his departing figure, a look of envy on his face. Living for so many years, he had never been as free as Tianhao. A cultivator should be like this, roaming the heavens and earth, unbound. Immediately after, the Sun and Moon Nether Emperor let out a self-deprecating laugh. The reason he was bound by the yin-yang immortal domain was not because of his talent, but because he needed the power of the immortal domain to gather cultivation resources. He used to think his cultivation speed was fast, but now it felt slow. He earnestly wanted to reach the free immortal realm. He now harbored a ridiculous guess. He felt that Tianhao might reach the free immortal realm faster than him. After a while, a figure landed beside the Sun and Moon Nether Emperor, a mysterious cultivator enveloped in black mist, who said in a deep voice, "Emperor, His Majesty has left." She said she would head to outer heaven to pursue the great Tao, leaving you to lead the reincarnation domain. The Sun and Moon Nether Emperor's thoughts were interrupted, and upon hearing this, he couldn't help but be astonished. Go to outer heaven to pursue the great Tao? Inside the Taoist field of the beginningless. Guwen opened his eyes, his gaze filled with a forceful presence. He had completed inheriting the 3000's projected selves' insights on the path of power. He underwent a transformation, with his chi power and mana rapidly strengthening, a strengthening that required no absorption of spiritual energy but was aided by the invisible and colorless path of power. He felt that the projected self that had entered reincarnation had disappeared, as if it had never existed. This allowed him to completely let go. Although there were many projected selves, indeed, they left no trace behind. He carefully sensed the path of power. Just pondering the path of power made his mana surge within the heaven-opening Daluo immortal realm, and his strength progressed leaps and bounds. Pure mana enhancement made him feel incredibly wonderful, and this time his choice was the right one. The sun set, and the moon rose. Days passed swiftly. 10 days later, Guwen stood up. He first went to various places to pick mature medicinal herbs, and only after gathering them did he return to Shenzhen's side. Shenzhen had painted a new picture, depicting a scene where the celestial spirit god knelt before an immortal. This immortal was an old Taoist, with an aura of immortal Tao and bones of divinity, and his back was bathed in rosy light. In front of him, the celestial spirit god lacked its usual overwhelming might. Guwen raised an eyebrow. Shenzhen had already been able to excavate his causality through the celestial spirit god. Don't paint recklessly, be careful not to provoke an existence even I can't withstand, Guwen spoke. Shenzhen snapped back to reality, and when she saw clearly what she had painted, her face turned pale, and she immediately raised her hand, her fingers igniting, rapidly burning the scroll. After doing all this, she breathed a sigh of relief. She turned her head towards Guwen, embarrassingly said, "I was too engrossed earlier, it wasn't intentional." She also felt a sense of fear. The celestial spirit god was already so powerful, how horrifying must an existence be that could make the celestial spirit god kneel? The thought that she might have brought about a catastrophe for Guwen made her uneasy, her eyes filled with guilt. Guwen was just trying to scare her. He trusted his own Taoist field. If his Taoist field weren't strong enough, Shenzhen had already provoked that old immortal. With his Tao practice far surpassing the celestial spirit god, he would just need a thought to descend into the celestial spirit great world. In the future, think about yourself. Your talent might hide unimaginable great cause and effect, Guwen said with a smile. The path of power had let his strength leap forward, and he also planned to prepare for a breakthrough. It was time to think of a way to save Fairy Yao Xian. This was the obsession of the Emperor of Eternal Life, and as the original, Guwen had to help him. Speaking of obsessions linked to the reincarnation body, Lu Han had one too, his son, Lu Qiuxian. The obsession of the Black Profound Emperor was his senior sister, Fairy Bai Xian. Guwen didn't want to create too deep a cause and effect with these people. The Long family was already troublesome enough, but he could secretly aid them. Consider it as repaying them for their lifelong companionship. My great cause and effect? Shenzhen fell into deep thought. Seeing her lose herself once again, Guwen shook his head in amusement. It wasn't necessarily good to be too easily enlightened. Guwen sat down and continued painting. He felt that Ji Xiaoyu had left the celestial spirit great world, but he did not stop his brush. He had long seen Ji Xiaoyu's future. After many trials and tribulations, Ji Xiaoyu would descend into other great thousand worlds, thus welcoming more opportunities. Her choice was right. She would go further in the future. Unfortunately, it was just further. Guwen had seen the end of her life. She would die in a struggle. He was not worried. When the time came, he would act. Peering into destiny did not make Guwen feel desolate towards everything because he was not only able to peer but also to change and even manipulate. Beings of lower realms could not detect this manipulation and would only sink in fate. One stick of incense later, Guwen completed his painting of Ji Xiaoyu. He saw Shenzhen still in a self-forgetting state, so he couldn't help but turn his gaze towards other worlds. Zhang Buku was temporarily safe, and in the long years to come, his power would grow continuously until he became the demon emperor of the Tai's great world. Compared to him, Guwen was more concerned about another person. That was Zhu Shi, the former lord of the Holy Court, Saint Heaven reincarnation. After being sent out of the celestial spirit great world by the immortal seeker, she came to a domain not part of the great thousand worlds to make her way, a place that also had heaven and earth, but without the rules of the great world. Guwen had only recently in the last 10,000 years caught track of Zhu Shi. At this moment, she was making her way through an ancient secret realm, said to be the dojo of a Taoist emperor, filled with mechanisms and its own world. Sir the Novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. This Taoist emperor made Guwen feel familiar. Emperor Ziwei. This emperor had appeared in the life of the Black Profound Emperor and was the strongest in talent he had ever encountered. Now recalling it, Guwen felt that this Emperor Ziwei was very extraordinary. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 609. Stealing Heaven. Immortal sect and emperors. Under the Black Night, ghostly figures in white robes drifted across the hills and fields, their forms ethereal, like phantoms, making not a sound. Amidst the forest, Zhu Shi took in this spectacle, her eyebrows tightly furrowed. She slowly retreated into the shadows. She turned around and walked towards the deeper parts of the forest. Moonlight filtered through the gaps between the leaves, illuminating her figure draped in a deep purple long garment, her hair pinned atop her head, exuding an air of authority and spirit. Having left the celestial spirit great world tens of thousands of years ago, her experiences had already transformed her. She approached a stone statue in the forest, her hand gently caressing the statue while she muttered an enigmatic and complex incantation. Moments later, a luminescent green figure flew out from within the statue, an old crone in a Taoist robe, akin to a soul body, her face covered in black spots, especially frightening to behold. She looked at Zhu Shi, chuckling, "Are you at a loss?" Zhu Shi stepped back and asked, "Speak then, how shall we cooperate and what must I give?" The old crone peered at Zhu Shi, her face full of mockery. "It's simple, let me take temporary possession of you, I will leave your body once we are out." Upon hearing this, Zhu Zai's frown deepened. Each of those lost souls surpasses you in cultivation level, and they simply cannot step into this forest, unless you wish to stay here forever. This is your only chance, as long as you trust me, the old crone persisted, her gaze burning into Zhu Shi. She paused, then added, "Don't forget, you would already be dead without me." Zhu Zai's eyes flickered, caught in indecision. For a long time, Zhu Shi looked up at the old woman and said, "I can agree to your terms, now tell me your name and the origins of this Taoist field." The old crone revealed a smile, "I am called the Stealing Mystery Heavenly Maiden. This Taoist field was left by Emperor Ziwei. He set this place as a seal, and the most terrifying thing here isn't the lost souls, he left behind an avatar here, intended for revival as I see it." Emperor Ziwei? Zhu Shi silently noted down the name, then said, "Let's begin then." The Stealing Mystery Heavenly Maiden asked with a smirk, "Do you need my help to snatch some opportunities? I know where the good treasures are hidden." Zhu Shi shook her head, "No need, let's just get out of here soon." The corners of the Stealing Mystery Heavenly Maiden's mouth curled up, and then she burrowed into Zhu Zai's body. Instantly, the stone statue burst with green light, swiftly enveloping her. Zhu Shi closed her eyes, welcoming all that was happening. Guwen, in the Taoist field of the beginningless far away, raised his eyebrows slightly. This Stealing Mystery Heavenly Maiden came from the Stealing Heaven Immortal sect. The Stealing Heaven Immortal sect belonged to the Emperor of Eternal Life. Although he was not the founder, the Emperor of Eternal Life had left his mark within the karma and destiny of the Stealing Heaven Immortal sect. Gu An's ability to cultivate the Immortal Emperor's eye was due to the inheritance left by a former sect hierarch of the Stealing Heaven Immortal sect. The Immortal Emperor's eye had boundless mystical uses, and at the very least, his Immortal Emperor's eye divine power could reverse everything. Guwen could feel that a part of Stealing Mystery Heavenly Maiden's karma belonged to the Emperor of Eternal Life. Before leaving the Stealing Heaven Immortal sect, the Emperor of Eternal Life left behind many inheritances, and Stealing Mystery Heavenly Maiden had received one. Could it be that all the lost souls in this Taoist field were from the Stealing Heaven Immortal sect? And there was no knowledge if the profound Demon Emperor was still safe? For that existence who had always aided the Emperor of Eternal Life, Gu An had a profound impression. The profound Demon Emperor could be said to be the most loyal disciple of the Stealing Heaven Immortal sect, spending his whole life trying to restore it. Speaking of which, since the Stealing Heaven Immortal sect defended the Celestial Court, they could only flee all over, and now being suppressed here by Emperor Ziwei, could it be the will of the Celestial Court? Guwen remembered Emperor Ziwei bore an uncanny resemblance to Emperor Ziwei. Emperor Ziwei was the master of the Immortal Palace when the Celestial Spirit God and the Celestial Spirit Immortal Venerable met, a god of the Celestial Court. CTH Novel Iyer. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Guwen continued to observe Zhu Zai's actions. In his memory, Zhu Shi was very cautious, and he didn't think she would normally leave her destiny in the hands of others. After being possessed by the Stealing Mystery Heavenly Maiden, Zhu Shi utilized a unique secret technique to quietly leave the forest. Along the way, she encountered many lost souls, all very powerful, some even of the Golden Immortal rank, but none noticed her. In the blink of an eye, time shifted to noon the next day, and Shenzhen finally woke up. Guwen stood up, not bothering to ask what she had realized, but left after dropping these words, "Don't be so fixated all the time. Sometimes, taking a break for a while can be more helpful." By the time Shenzhen came to her senses, she could no longer see his figure. "Indeed, I seem to have become quite obsessed lately, always trying to pursue enlightenment. It appears I've been stimulated by that kid Tian Hao, Xinjun murmured to herself as she stood up to tidy up the easel. Her mood was still fairly good. Although she hadn't made any breakthroughs, she had all the time in the world to comprehend it. In the Taoist field of the beginningless, she never had to worry about danger and felt as if time was extraordinarily lengthy. As she was wondering whether to write a book or go shopping at the Qingkuan sect, she was in the midst of a life-and-death battle. Suspended in the cosmic void, she stood with a long sword in her hand, her expression blank as she stared at the stealing heaven's profound mystery in front of her. The profound mystery had become younger than before, her features bewitchingly beautiful, with only a few dark spots remaining on her face. She glared at Zhu Shi and asked through gritted teeth, "What cultivation technique did you practice? How did it protect your divine soul?" Zhu Shi raised her sword toward her and said, "The Taoist unique venerates skill. Have you ever heard of it?" The color drained from stealing heaven's profound mystery's face. In an instant, the void around them changed color, and twisting green light appeared in every direction, making the void seem like an illusion realm. "Whose disciple are you from the celestial court?" Stealing heaven's profound mystery asked in a deep voice, her eyes filled with hatred. She snorted coldly, "I have nothing to do with the celestial court. I'm just an ordinary person from a mortal realm. If you insist on taking over my flesh, then let's fight to the death. May it be your soul scattering or my body and Tao being annihilated, it's all a matter of skill." When she spoke these words, she exuded the aura of the holy court's Xianxia, an aura cultivated from being unmatched for years, fearless in the face of anything. Stealing heaven's profound mystery suddenly opened her arms, and in an instant, numerous figures appeared amidst the twisting green light, like countless arrows raining down on Zhu Shi. Before Zhu Shi could confront these figures, a green beam of light descended from the sky, enveloping her. Everything happened too rapidly, so fast that Zhu Shi couldn't dodge in time. "Do you dare to be so audacious in front of me?" Stealing heaven's profound mystery said with scorn. The figures that moved toward Zhu Shi quickly surrounded the green light pole, forming layers upon layers in an arrangement resembling a formation. Upon closer inspection, these figures greatly resembled the lost souls from the secret realm she had encountered before. Zhu Shi was unable to move, feeling as if she was being consumed by countless ants. She didn't despair. Jin Qi started to emanate from her body, circling around her. Gradually, golden lines appeared on her forehead, interwoven, resembling a golden lotus blooming upon her brow. Stealing heaven's profound mysteries' pupils dilated suddenly. Just as she was about to speak, the golden lotus on Zhu Xi's forehead burst forth with dazzling golden light, piercing the green light and annihilating the soul shadows along its path. In a flash, Stealing heaven's profound mystery dodged to the side, appearing in another location. Just as she appeared, she fixed her gaze and saw that Zhu Xi's figure was no longer inside the formation she had created. Boom! A sword light suddenly attacked, and Zhu Shi appeared out of nowhere behind her, severing her head with a single strike. The sword light extended infinitely after the cut, eliminating the twisting green light in the void and returning everything to darkness. Stealing heaven's profound mysteries had spun in the void, locking eyes with Zhu Xi's sword-wielding figure. Stealing heaven's profound mystery was furious, her alluring face contorting with rage. Just as she attempted to retaliate, a hand suddenly grabbed her head, rendering her motionless. Her eyes widened as she cried out, "Who?" Zhu Shi stopped, her eyes filled with dread as she saw the figure gripping Stealing heaven's profound mystery's head. It was a man dressed in a dragon-patterned purple robe, wearing an imperial crown with hanging beads, his garments exquisite, and behind him 18 purple-scaled flood dragons twisted in the air, his face utterly indifferent. "Emperor Ziwei! How is this possible?" Stealing heaven's profound mystery cried out in shock, but before she could finish, Emperor Ziwei crushed her soul head, and her soul body dissipated with it, gone without a trace. After doing all this, Emperor Ziwei's indifferent gaze fell upon Zhu Shi, causing her to shudder in fear. She was horrified to realize she could find no escape, her instinct telling her that if she dared move, she would be immediately annihilated. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 610. Immortal Emperor's Eye battles. Emperor Ziwei stared at Zhu Shi, not uttering a word. His gaze was so indifferent, as the murky void fell silent, a suffocating atmosphere spreading to its extremities. Zhu Shi felt the aura of the thief of the profound mystique completely vanish, and her heart rose to her throat. Before her death, the thief of the profound mystique had revealed this person's true identity. Emperor Ziwei, the master of that terrifying dojo from earlier. She knew what being called an emperor represented. She was chasing that very path, but the journey to become a Taoist emperor was incredibly arduous. Those who could claim the title were all possessed of unsurpassed destiny and peerless talent. A fully accomplished Taoist emperor was even more terrifying, possessing the ability to not fear the immortal gods. Who taught you the Taoist unique venerate skill? Asked Emperor Ziwei, his voice icy cold, an endless tide of killing intent overwhelming Zhu Shi. Without control, Zhu Shi blurted out 4 words, Immortal Seeker. Having spoken, her heart was thrown into turmoil. What was going on? Why couldn't she restrain herself from speaking the truth? Emperor Ziwei narrowed his eyes, murmuring to himself, It's him, as unsettled as ever. He continued asking Zhu Shi, Besides him, do you have another master? What is his name? He could sense that the Immortal Seeker's influence on Zhu Shi wasn't significant, and Zhu Shi was burdened with even greater karma. Zhu Zai's complexion changed dramatically. She opened her mouth, trying with all her might to suppress the urge to speak, but she couldn't hold it back. Yes, he is Gu. Zhu Zai's voice suddenly stopped, as she felt the bindings around her disappear. She reacted swiftly, turning to flee. Her speed was incredible, covering an immense distance in the blink of an eye. However, no matter where she flew in the void, the surroundings looked extremely similar, as if she hadn't moved at all. Emperor Ziwei didn't chase after Zhu Shi but frowned in the direction of her escape. He lifted his right hand, his robe billowing, and the entire void changed color. Zhu Shi, fleeing at full speed, seemed to sense something. She turned her head, her eyes widening in shock. Behind her in the void emerged 18 enormous draconic shadows, as if occupying the whole space, full of visual impact. They writhed freely, bearing fangs and claws, appearing shockingly terrifying. Zhu Shi stopped, not because she didn't want to escape, but because the space around her suddenly solidified, rendering her unable to move. What was most terrifying was an invisible force compelling her to turn around, as if a hand was seizing her, spinning her back. The Zhu Shi of the profound Yuan-free immortal realm had no way to resist this power. Despair filled her eyes. The gap was too great, so vast she couldn't use any secret techniques or divine skills. As the 18 dreadful draconic shadows closed in, Zhu Shi wanted to end her own life but found she was unable to do so. Since you want to protect her, why not show yourself? Spoke Emperor Ziwei, causing Zhu Shi to be astonished. Someone was protecting her? Was it possible that her earlier escape wasn't because Emperor Ziwei was distracted, but that another force was secretly aiding her? She struggled to turn her head to see what lay behind her. In the corner of her eye, the void remained pitch black, like the abyss, invisible to sight. The more this was true, the more uneasy Zhu Shi became. She was very clear about her own past. What possible backing could she have that could contend with Emperor Ziwei? She felt it was more likely that another terrifying being was maneuvering her. Having left the celestial spirit great world for tens of thousands of years, she indeed had been involved in many karmic consequences which she didn't fully understand. Zhu Shi looked back at Emperor Ziwei, her gaze no longer filled with despair but returning to her usual calmness. If worst came to worst, she would die. Immortal Emperor's Eye? Truly a rarity, no wonder you want to protect her. Emperor Ziwei's voice rang out once again, his voice becoming even colder, and the 18 enormous dragon shadows that twisted at will also stopped in their tracks. Hearing this, Zhu Shi turned her head to look again, and this time, her pupils involuntarily dilated. She saw a pair of eyes. A pair of spectacular and terrifying eyes, the visual impact of which was no less than that of Emperor Ziwei's 18 dragon shadows. In these eyes shone dark purple pupils, eerie and mysterious. The eyes were so vast, like the eyes of the universe, that they made Nzin's soul tremble. What kind of eyes were these? She could not imagine the realm of the owner of these eyes. Although this mortal body isn't very powerful, if you want to save her from my grasp, let's see just how capable you are. Emperor Ziwei's voice came from the depths of the void, and as his words ended, the 18 giant dragon shadows moved. They moved like thunder, and the entire void seemed to shatter all at once. The Tao rule stirred up a strong wind that rushed at Zhu Shi, forcing her to close her eyes instinctively, her body and mind in extreme discomfort. At this moment, she felt like a drowning mortal, in pain, suffering, terrified, yet powerless, only able to endure this kind of torture. Fortunately, the torture came suddenly and left just as quickly. The wild force assaulting Zhu Shi disappeared in an instant, and she then felt a warm power enveloping her. Sniff. Her shoulder was suddenly patted, startling her into opening her eyes. A new light shone in her eyes as she saw the once invincible dragon shadows starting to obliterate as if being burned by an invisible fire. This scene filled her with surprise. She instinctively turned her head to look but saw no one else. The feeling of her shoulder being patted seemed to have been an illusion. However, those mysterious giant eyes known as the Immortal Emperor's eyes remained. They were so calm, silently watching Emperor Ziwei's dragon shadows become undone. Looking at the Immortal Emperor's eyes again, Zhu Shi unexpectedly felt a sense of familiarity. It seemed she had seen these eyes somewhere before. Wait, could it be? Yuzai's eyes widened with excitement, her body trembling uncontrollably. It was her mentor. Long ago in the celestial spirit great world, she had never been able to see through Gu An's cultivation level. She had always thought her mentor came from another great thousand world, but she could never have imagined her mentor was so powerful and, moreover, that he could come to rescue her. An immense surprise overwhelmed her, making her feel as though she was in a dream. Until the dragon shadows vanished, Emperor Ziwei's voice did not rise again. Zhu Shi didn't understand what had happened, but it was clear that her mentor had won. Run away, continue chasing the path of the great Tao. Gu An's voice entered Zhu Zai's ears, rousing her, and she immediately flew towards the Immortal Emperor's eyes. Along the way, the view was dazzling, with star nebulae surging like dragons, the scenery before her eyes enchanting. Zhu Shi found that even flying at full speed, she still couldn't get close to the Immortal Emperor's eyes. The distance between them seemed eternally insurmountable. Sir the Ovalfire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. She didn't feel lost. Instead, she felt her mentor was guiding her. Looking at the majestic Immortal Emperor's eyes in the distance, Zhu Zai's eyes were filled with longing. How many years would she need to cultivate to reach such a realm? Meanwhile, far away at Human World Peak, Gu An stood at the edge of a cliff, gazing at the horizon, his eyes reflecting the image of Zhu Shi. This time, he had not personally intervened, but it was enough to deal with Emperor Ziwei. This Emperor Ziwei, although not the true form, possessed the cultivation level of the balancing heaven golden immortal realm perfection, even more powerful than the celestial spirit god. Regrettably, defeating Emperor Ziwei did not grant him lifespan, leading him to speculate more about Emperor Ziwei. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 611, Golden Extreme God Gu An watched Zhu Shi leave through the void, using his own Tao intent to carve a path for her that crossed the universe. Although Zhu Shi had already reached the Xianxia tier before she paid homage to him as her mentor, they had, after all, spent many years together, and he wouldn't skimp on giving her a hand. Of course, the reason he dared to make a move was because he had no fear of Emperor Ziwei. Not just Emperor Ziwei, Gu An also didn't sense any danger following the cause and effect linked to Emperor Ziwei. Naturally, he still held the Celestial Court in awe and thus did not directly confront Emperor Ziwei. His Fate Pen and Infinite Sword Book could be used to strike enemies from afar, and over tens of thousands of years, apart from refining Tao treasures, he had been continuously strengthening both the Fate Pen and the Infinite Sword Book. Some things need not be used, but cannot be too weak. In his unmatched years, Gu-in enjoyed conjuring enemies for himself. He would even imagine facing the entire celestial court. A figure arrived beside Gu-in. It was Zhu Xinglan, his foremost disciple from the main peak of Human World Peak. Tens of thousands of years might seem long to mortals, but for disciples of a major sect like the Human World Peak, it wasn't considered very long. Over these years, Zhu Xinglan maintained utmost respect for Gu-in and was very organized in handling matters, so Gu-in would, from time to time, give him some guidance. However, the two were not in a true mentor-disciple relationship, and Gu-in didn't truly wish to take him as a disciple. Master, Tao Court has invited Human World Peak for a second discourse on the Tao, and the main peak would like you to attend as well, Zhu Xinglan said respectfully. Gu-in had always maintained the cultivation level of the first tier of Human World Peak. Not only did he hold a high position and wield significant power, but heaven-defining peak had also become the second most important peak after the main peak. I need to travel and see the world. When the time comes, we'll see. I might as well head towards Tao Court. If I can make it, then that's good. If not, they won't miss my presence, Gu-in casually replied. Zhu Xinglan smiled helplessly but dared not insist further. After all these years, Gu-in was always like this, free from any mercenary interests. He figured it out. Gu-in's choice to join Human World Peak was likely due to Baizia's invitation, casually accepted in his laid-back manner. Zhu Xinglan began to speak of other matters. The current era teemed with emerging prodigies, with ancient great cultivators unable to overshadow the luster of the younger generation. As each peerless prodigy rose, various myths emerged as if those peerless figures were immortal gods descending from the celestial court. Take Tian Hao as an example. The followers of the heavenly Tao claimed he was the reincarnation of profound star immortal monarch, the fiercest immortal in the mortal world on a trial. Zhu Xinglan too longed for the elegance of those peerless prodigies. In recent millennia, he had been actively searching for unparalleled talents for heaven-defining peak. Unfortunately, he found many talented individuals, but none could compare with the first-rate talents of the world. Gu-in merely listened, not really interested in cultivating peerless prodigies for Human World Peak. Once she was completely safe, he retracted his thoughts and headed down the mountain, with Zhu Xinglan keeping him company, eager to chat more. Even after tens of thousands of years, Zhu Xinglan still had no clue about Gu-in's origins. Before joining Human World Peak, from which sect had Gu-in come? This remained a curiosity for him. It was precisely this curiosity that made him look forward to Gu-in, hoping Gu-in would bring surprises to Human World Peak. Unfortunately, he was once again disappointed. After spending half a day at Human World Peak, Gu-in returned to Taoist field of the beginningless. Deep in the universe, at the World Gate. Seated in meditation before the World Gate, the celestial spirit god suddenly opened his eyes and stood up, facing the gate. The World Gate burst forth with a blinding light, and an immense celestial Tao aura flowed forth like dispersing fog, mighty and overwhelming. Amidst the vast celestial Tao flame, a figure stepped out from within the World Gate. It was a towering figure clad in golden armor, his presence no weaker than the celestial spirit god. The armor he wore contrasted starkly with the celestial spirit god's silver armor, and the light emitted by both was equally brilliant, locked in a standoff. It's been a long time, celestial spirit god. The man in golden armor stopped in his tracks. He stood before the World Gate, looking at the celestial spirit god, and spoke with a voice like rolling thunder, causing the surrounding celestial Tao flame to tremble. The celestial spirit god wore an expressionless face and asked, "Golden Extreme God, why do you leave the great thousand world you guard to come to mine?" The Golden Extreme God lifted his right hand, revealing a golden token in his palm with two characters engraved. Profound Residence. The gaze of the celestial spirit god remained unchanged as he continued, "The profound star immortal monarch is really quite audacious." The Golden Extreme God snorted coldly, "That's none of your concern, and even your former master, Emperor Ziwei, has no right to pry into the affairs of an immortal monarch. The celestial spirit god fell silent for a moment, then slowly turned aside to make way for the golden extreme god. The golden extreme god stepped forward, passing by the celestial spirit god, where gold and silver lights merged and flames surged. After walking 10 steps forward, the golden extreme god halted, slightly tilted his head, and glanced at the celestial spirit god from the corner of his eye. The immortal monarch appreciates you. Back in the immortal palace of Emperor Ziwei, he saw that your potential was far beyond that of a celestial god, and you could go much farther. Once this matter is settled, I shall ascend to be a celestial Dao Star monarch, and you will still have a chance to consider it. When I return here, I expect an answer from you. CTH Novelier. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. With that, he vanished into thin air, leaving behind only strands of golden flames drifting away. The celestial spirit god watched the direction the golden extreme god had left, a look of contempt flickering in his eyes, then returned to his meditation spot. Time flowed like a gentle stream. 100 years passed as swiftly as a single day. Inside the Taoist field of the beginningless. Midway up the mountain, Guwen sat on a tree branch, giving an Xian guidance on cultivating divine skills, while his gaze lingered on the golden extreme god who had descended into the human world a century ago. This golden extreme god possessed the cultivation level of the late stage of the heaven-balancing golden immortal realm and was on the cusp of breaking through to the perfection realm. After coming to the human world, the golden extreme god did not cause much disturbance. He wandered the human world, created secret realms, divine statues, and left behind legacies, even offering guidance to some beings with exceptional talent, causing these beings to acquire the celestial Tao destiny. Since the golden extreme god was not committing evil deeds, Guwen naturally had no reason to oppose him. Perhaps there was some scheme of the celestial court behind this, but for these beings, it indeed represented a significant chance, even altering their lives. The profound star immortal monarch seemed to want to make the celestial spirit great world a world that worships him. The reason for not showing himself was probably fear of the celestial court's dissatisfaction. Do the immortal gods of the celestial court also need the masses to bolster their destiny? Guwen found this quite amusing. The way of destiny has existed since ancient times. Gathering a group of people's fortunes together can foster a greater power of protection. Guwen had seen into the golden extreme god's future. If he did not intervene, the golden extreme god, due to arrogance, would face the challenge of the champion of this realm. After being suppressed repeatedly, the golden extreme god would grow increasingly impatient, becoming brutal in his interactions, thus tarnishing his image in the hearts of all beings and affecting the profound star immortal monarch as well. In the end, the golden extreme god would be captured by a force from beyond the skies, serving as a resolution for the beings. The golden extreme god, Emperor Ziwei, profound star immortal monarch, Guwen felt the mystique of the celestial court gradually revealing itself to him, yet he still couldn't fathom just how powerful the celestial court truly was. He sensed that celestial gods like the celestial spirit god and the golden extreme god must be at the lowest tier of the celestial Tao immortal position. For a universe like the celestial spirit great world to be controlled by the lowest tier immortal god, even if the 3,000 great worlds joined forces, they would pose no threat to the celestial court. Master, why is this calamity absolute so difficult to practice? Is it part of the way of destiny or the way of cause and effect? And Xin's voice came from below, drawing Guwen to turn and look at her. Guwen replied, "It will become whichever great Tao you want it to be." What he taught was not only the calamity absolute but also the methods of cultivating the immortal emperor's to see whether an Xian could successfully practice them. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 612. Tianhao's Destiny. The rise of the immortal emperor's and Xian had taken a profound interest in the calamity absolute since she began cultivating it. She believed that the divine power had infinite mystical uses, not just limited to calamities, and she cherished the opportunity to be mentored individually by Gu and felt that an Xian indeed held the potential to master the Immortal Emperor's Eye. He chose to impart the Immortal Emperor's Eye only to an Xen because her comprehension was continuously improving at a pace unmatched by others. She was growing into another and how. While Gu watched the Golden Extreme God instructing the geniuses of the human world, he preached to an Xen, helping her to better enter the state of enlightenment required for the Immortal Emperor's Eye. At the same time, he pondered when to make his breakthrough. For his next breakthrough, he planned not to enhance his Taoist technique but to advance directly. Why bother enhancing the Taoist technique first when he already felt quite powerful, having recently comprehended the path of power, strengthening his methods for crossing the tribulation? Indeed, either method would consume a vast lifespan, and he could not judge which was better. He just needed to accumulate enough lifespan. Instead of worrying about which method conserved more lifespan, it was better to save up more. Using 2 trillion years of lifespan should likely stabilize the breakthrough. If need be, he would wait until he reached 3 trillion years of lifespan before making his breakthrough. With the Golden Extreme God residing in the Celestial Spirit Great World for many years and the presence of the Celestial Spirit God, it was unlikely that this world would encounter a cataclysm. Currently, the Celestial Spirit Great World did not need Guan's protection. The profound star Immortal Monarch hidden in the shadows would also devise ways to protect this realm. A spring breeze fluttered past, drifting a tender green leaf over Nzin's head as she opened her eyes and pondered, her pupils shimmering with a strange light. The passage of time left no mark in her eyes. Seas had become mulberry fields, and the stars had shifted. Another myriad years passed. This year, just after the new year, an Xen still resided midway up the mountain cultivating the Immortal Emperor's Eye. Her cultivation level remained at the carefree primordial immortal realm. No one in the Taoist field of the beginningless had yet crossed this major realm, but the number of disciples reaching the carefree primordial immortal realm was increasing. As for Tian Hao, he was not counted among those in the dojo since he always went out for experiential training. After 10,000 years of intensive research, an Xen finally developed her own understanding of the Immortal Emperor's Eye. She discovered that her ability in the Calamity Absolute Eye seemed not just a divine power, but more like a secret technique that altered her bloodline, which made her even more hopeful about this divine skill. Over the years, she had reduced her outings, dedicating most of her time to cultivation. Her master had said that once she mastered it, she could catch up to Tian Hao, perhaps even surpass him. This statement was true. Gu genuinely believed that the Immortal Emperor's Eye had the merit to challenge the immortal gods of the Celestial Court. The profound Demon Emperor had once said that if the Immortal Emperor's Eye were fully developed, the Celestial Court would surely take notice, indicating their fear of its power. Indeed, the Immortal Emperor's Eye was formidable. Gu anticipated Nzin's use of the Immortal Emperor's Eye divine power with its ability to reverse anything. Although powerful, the Immortal Emperor's Eye was not suitable for everyone. Should individuals like LV Xian and Chen Chuan attempt it, it could potentially hinder their cultivation. Even though an Xian had the strongest comprehension within the dojo, after 10,000 years of cultivating the Immortal Emperor's Eye, she had grasped only a fraction of its essence, demonstrating the difficulty of mastering it. "Senior sister!" A voice thundered across the celestial vault, startling the birds in the forest and capturing Nzin's attention. With such a loud voice, it had to be Tian Hao. Every time Tian Hao returned from his training trips, he would visit the dojo, bringing gifts for everyone. No matter his achievements, he maintained his respect for his senior sister in Xian. Indeed, everyone knew that Guwen was most fond of his disciple in Xian, and she truly lived up to the responsibility, often helping her fellow dojo disciples achieve their desires. Tian Hao quickly descended in front of an Xen, raising his hand in salute. After many years apart, his aura had grown even stronger. An Xian nodded to him and asked, "Have you made any breakthroughs in your cultivation level?" Tian Hao smiled and said, "I just broke through to the Tao Void Profound Immortal Realm." An Xen fell silent. They were stuck at the carefree primordial immortal realm, where breakthroughs were rare in 10,000 years, Yet Tianhao seemed to feel the hindrances in his cultivation and continued to advance rapidly. Dao Void Profound Immortal, and Exen felt the gap between herself and Tianhao widening. She couldn't help but doubt herself. Even if she mastered this divine skill, could she really stand on equal footing with Tianhao? Such confusion passed in an instant. She decided to trust her master, for without her master, where would she be today? Her master had no reason to deceive her. How have you been in recent years? An Xian adjusted her attitude and asked with concern. Though Tianhao called her senior sister, in her eyes, he was a junior. Tianhao and Xianxia didn't truly consider themselves as disciples either. Their attitude toward an Xian was indeed like that of juniors towards an elder. See Teach Novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Hearing Enzin's inquiry, Tianhao was delighted and began to share his experiences over the years. He had visited many places, spreading the renown of the Qingkuan sect far and wide, and with his strength, the Qingkuan sect had become a world-renowned sect, bringing many benefits to the sect. Tianhao had defeated countless geniuses and great powers, but he still vividly remembered the mysterious genius he had encountered in the Yin-Yang Immortal domain. That person is the only one I've given my all and still could not defeat. I really want to fight him again, Tianhao remarked sincerely. Enzin's expression turned odd. Someone was able to suppress Tianhao within the same realm? She couldn't believe it. Could it be that Master was disguising himself to play with Tianhao to prevent this young man from becoming arrogant? The more she thought about it, the more it seemed possible. Such an opponent had neither hurt Tianhao nor left a name. Everything seemed so coincidental, so mysterious. This indeed sounded like something her master would do. She did not voice her conjecture but instead smiled and said, "Having an opponent is a good thing. He has always been an inspiration to you. Sooner or later, you will meet again. What you need to do is maintain your cultivation attitude before then and not give yourself reasons for regret." Tianhao nodded, then smiled and said, "If you and the others also ventured out with the Tao treasures in your hands, you could certainly make a great name for yourselves." He had always been puzzled by one thing. Why did the master only allow him to go out for training? Chen Chuan and Xianxia had expressed their envy in private more than once. An Xen shook her head and said, "We would not venture out. We will always accompany the master." Accompany? Tianhao was even more confused. The master often went out too. He didn't dare to discuss the master and quickly changed the subject. The two talked for a while longer. Tianhao then took out the prepared gift and bid farewell. An Xian played with the jade hairpin given by Tianhao, squinting her eyes as she watched his departing figure. An Xen was surprised inwardly. She saw a peculiar kind of destiny around Tianhao, entwining him like a dragon, radiating scorching light. What was that destiny? Curious, an Xian pondered. Then, her face showed delight. She raised her hand to touch her eyes, feeling a mysterious power surging within them. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 613, Hongmeng Great World Reuniting with Tianhao. An Xian unexpectedly felt the power of the Immortal Emperor's eye. She closed her eyes, deeply immersing herself in understanding. Far away, within the Qingkuan sect, drinking, Guwen also sensed the occurrence. Perception between Immortal Emperor's eyes was exceptionally sharp. He felt both relieved and curious. Could it be the destiny of innate immortal gods that stimulates the Immortal Emperor's eye? Could the Immortal Emperor's eye be the pathway to innate immortal gods? Is this also why the Celestial Court fears the Immortal Emperor's eye? Guwen speculated thus, but he couldn't be sure. After all, he hadn't yet seen the Celestial Court. "Brother Gu, what are you thinking about? Why aren't you drinking?" The cultivator sitting opposite Guwen asked with a smile. He was a good friend Guwen had made in the Qingkuan sect in recent years, named Guanqiu. The two were fair-weather friends, not concerns for each other's cultivation progress. If they met, they would simply enjoy wine and meat, and chat about the pleasures of life. Guanqiu's appearance wasn't handsome, but his cheerful personality, combined with his bright smile, easily closed the distance with others. Guwen revealed a smile, saying, "I was just wondering when the geishas you spoke of would appear in the city." Guan Qiu laughed, shaking his head in amusement. "This is the Qingkuan sect. How could there be such a place of song and dance? If you're interested, I'll take you to the imperial city later, where the noble officials of the human world know how to enjoy." The two chatted on this topic for quite some time. Eventually, Guan Qiu was the first to stand up and say goodbye, lamenting, "I've got to go out on another mission, to alleviate suffering and difficulty. I fear it may be years before I can return." He was just an ordinary lower-level disciple of the Qingkuan sect, so for him, a few years was quite long. Guwen offered him a blessing, then watched him depart. When Guan Qiu had left, Guwen drank alone, his gaze passing through the window, appreciating the scenery on the street. Even within a major sect like the Qingkuan sect, cultivators of all realms were striving for their own destiny. Guwen had already seen, while drinking, that Guan Qiu would encounter hardships on his journey, even be tortured by demon cultivators to the point of preferring death, but he did not intervene. Guan Qiu would meet the Golden Extreme God during the most desperate moment of his life, marking a turning point. The drinking buddies Guwen had made in the Qingkuan sect long exceeded 10,000. Many had entered reincarnation, and others had forgotten him. Among these friends, Guan Qiu was very ordinary, but due to the arrival of the Golden Extreme God, he would embark on an extraordinary legendary path. "Brother Guan, while the path ahead is perilous, the night will always pass." Guwen picked up a bowl of wine, muttering to himself before tossing it down the building. This action signified the end of their cause and effect relationship. It wasn't that Guwen intentionally wanted to sever ties. Rather, Guan Qiu would no longer be his drinking buddy, and he wouldn't retain his current radiant smile. "Who's there? Why are you throwing wine downstairs?" A beautiful female disciple shouted angrily, covering her head, looking up, but no longer able to see Guwen's figure. The cultivators passing by on the street glanced at her, yet no one approached to strike up a conversation. Elsewhere, Guwen walked through the forest, humming a tune, and started his life-span breakthrough as he walked. It was time to break through. As the thought settled, a series of prompts popped up before his eyes. "You have initiated the lifespan breakthrough function. Based on your current realm, the following breakthrough locations are selected for you: 1. Path of the Great Tao, 2. Fallen Divine Realm, 3. Abyss Tao Sea, 4. Celestial Extreme 9 Heavens, 5. Tao Origin Ancestor Tree, 6. Ling Mountain, 7. Taiqing Deep Realm, 8. Misty Immortal Court, 9. Hongmeng Great World." Most of the place names had appeared before. It was a good thing that the desperate celestial tomb hadn't. At least Guwen wouldn't be entangled in sin anymore. Looking at Ling Mountain and the Misty Immortal Court, Guwen felt a bit hesitant. Should he represent the Emperor of Eternal Life and revisit his old haunts? Forget it. After becoming the sect hierarch of the Stealing Heaven Immortal sect, the Emperor of Eternal Life might have already caught the attention of the Celestial Court. It was not worth the risk. CTH Nelfer. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Guwen's attention was drawn to the Hongmeng Great World. The two characters Hongmeng were evidently not simple. In the myths of Wuxia from his previous life, Hongmeng represented the ancient. It represented the starting point of everything. There was even a saying that Hongmeng existed before chaos. Why not go there? Guwen hesitated for a moment, then made a decision. To teleport to the Hongmeng Great World, it will require 10 billion years of lifespan. Do you wish to proceed? 10 trillion years of lifespan to Guwen now was hardly anything to consider. He agreed without hesitation. Immediately following was the familiar sense of discomfort, causing him to close his eyes, deprived of his senses. After a while, his senses returned, and he opened his eyes. What entered his vision was a vast and boundless universe, filled with a faint purple haze, where he could see stars, continents, and spectacular nebulae like no other. He immediately activated his life-span barrier, then resumed observing the Hongmeng Great World. Once the life-span barrier was up, his heart was completely at ease. At a glance, the universe seemed boundless. Even as a heaven-opening Daoyuo immortal like him, he couldn't see the end in one look. This place's stars and continents showed no signs of life. Everything seemed dead and silent. Could this be a desolate great thousand world? Guwen thought curiously, but feeling the spiritual energy drifting in the universe, he believed that with such spiritual energy, life should have been nurtured. The Tao rules here were very intact and even richer. It was the place with the densest Tao rules among all the worlds he had been to. Being born in such a universe, when a living being first gains spiritual intelligence, the power it possessed would be at a height unattainable by all beings in the celestial spirit great world in their whole lives. After watching for a long time and not seeing any living beings, he gave up and then summoned his attribute panel. Name, Guwen, lifespan, 82, 002/2, 014, 000, 089, 137. Physique, primordial reincarnation undying body. Cultivation level, heaven opening Daluo immortal realm perfection. Unknowingly, he had already reached the age of 80,202. Recalling the past, he felt somewhat emotional. Could those old friends from the Supreme Sect have imagined that he would reach such heights in his cultivation today? 2 trillion years of lifespan was Guwen's confidence for a breakthrough. He immediately invested lifespan into his cultivation level, starting with 10 trillion years of lifespan. You practice Qi absorption cultivation for 1 trillion years. Your great achievement in the Taoist Dominator skill forcefully impacts the Miaozhen Daluo immortal realm. Starting crossing the tribulation, you did not endure the lawless and unrestrained creation of the great celestial tribulation. Crossing the tribulation failed. You practice Qi absorption cultivation for 2 trillion years. Your great achievement in the Taoist Dominator skill forcefully impacts the Miaozhen Daluo immortal realm. Starting crossing the tribulation, you did not endure the lawless and unrestrained creation of the great celestial tribulation. Crossing the tribulation failed. One line of prompts after another fell. 10 trillion years of lifespan could only suffice for 10 breakthrough attempts, ending as usual in failure. Guwen felt in his heart that lifespan was becoming increasingly less reliable, but looking at the 5 characters of Miaozhen Daluo immortal, his heart was full of anticipation. As long as he could successfully break through, no matter how much lifespan it cost, it would be worth it. He changes the number of years of lifespan he invested, pouring in 100 trillion years of lifespan in one go. What boldness! Although he had not yet succeeded, Guwen already possessed the spirit of a Miaozhen Daluo immortal, or at least, that was how he felt within his heart. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 614. Breakthrough to Miaozhen Daluo immortal realm perfection. 1 trillion years of lifespan could endure 100 tribulations. Rapid prompts flashed in front of Guwen's eyes, with no change in length, meaning all failed. Guwen was not at all panicked. He continued to invest 1 trillion years of his lifespan. His eyes were constantly focused on the prompts in front of him. In the mysterious and eerie Hongmeng Great World, purple mist surged. As Guwen continuously invested lifespan, when he had poured in 5 trillion years, his face finally showed a change. He began to have an ominous feeling, but fortunately he still had 15 trillion years of lifespan left, so there was no need to panic. After investing another 2 trillion years of lifespan, the prompts finally changed. You have practiced Qi absorption cultivation for 87 trillion years. You forcefully attack the Miaozhen Daluo immortal realm with the great achievement of the Taoist Dominator skill, begin the tribulation and fail to endure the unrestrained heavenly creation of great celestial tribulation. Tribulation failed. You have practiced Qi absorption cultivation for 88 trillion years. You forcefully attack the Miaozhen Daluo immortal realm with the great achievement of the Taoist Dominator skill, begin the tribulation and endure the unrestrained heavenly creation of great celestial tribulation. Tribulation succeeded. Your cultivation level breaks through to the early stage of Miaozhen Daluo immortal realm. You have practiced Qi absorption cultivation for 100 trillion years. Your cultivation level has been elevated. At last, a successful breakthrough. A smile bloomed on Guwen's face, and the spiritual energy of the Hongmeng Great World surged wildly, with him being swallowed by the Tao light. He didn't stop there. continuing to invest lifespan into his cultivation. The last breakthrough didn't reach the realm of perfection in one go, leaving him somewhat regretful. This time, he must meet his standard. In the end, Guan successfully reached the perfection of Miaozhen Daluo Immortal Realm, with 7.5 trillion years of lifespan still remaining. Guan closed his eyes contentedly, immersing himself in the fortune brought by Miaozhen Daluo Immortal. As the spiritual energy in the Hongmeng Great World began to surge, the invisible Tao rules also began to tremble, and ethereal auspicious lights appeared in the void, featuring various colors. Towards the end, even lightning appeared within the void, a destructive aura spreading throughout the cosmic vacuum. An hour later, Guan finally broke through to the Miaozhen Daluo Immortal Realm. He still bathed in the Tao light, and sprouts rapidly sprouted from the top of his head, flowering and fruiting. After the fruit grew, it burst into golden light, forming countless points of light, like a galaxy floating above his head. He slowly opened his eyes. The heaven-opening Daluo Immortal can create worlds, even those surpassing the ordinary Great Thousand World, while Miaozhen Daluo Immortal can transform the world into its own power, condensing the Miaozhen Dharma aspect, whose creation is endless. The Miaozhen Dharma aspect is composed of the 3,000 Great Tao, but one Tao acts as the main body, which is wonderfully similar to the Tao universe known to Guan. This Dharma aspect is different from the immortal Tao Dharma aspect, capable of achieving everything that Miaozhen Daluo Immortal desires, able to create, destroy, and even devour everything. Guan hesitated. Should his Miaozhen Dharma aspect be mainly the path of cause and effect or the path of power? After much deliberation, he decided to make the path of power the main focus. He needed pure strength. Moreover, he was only creating the Miaozhen Dharma aspect, not abandoning the path of cause and effect. After deciding, Guan closed his eyes again, creating the Miaozhen Dharma aspect deep within his soul. Various thoughts burst from the depths of his mind, making his mood increasingly joyful. The creation process was not strenuous. It was easy and even felt refreshing. Time continued to pass. Middle stage of Miaozhen Daluo Immortal Realm. Late stage of Miaozhen Daluo Immortal Realm. Perfection of Miaozhen Daluo Immortal Realm. Guan opened his eyes, his pupils reflecting silhouettes, all of which were his reincarnation bodies. During the creation of the Miaozhen Dharma aspect, Guan thought about the relationship between the heavenly Tao and the celestial court, so he integrated the celestial dragon reincarnation Dharma aspect into the Miaozhen Dharma aspect. His reincarnation body would be a god within the Miaozhen Dharma aspect, creating even greater power. Utilizing the Miaozhen Dharma aspect in battle would be an unimaginable method for all living beings. If he wished to oppose the celestial spirit great world, he could, in a single thought, use the Miaozhen Dharma aspect to devour the celestial spirit great world, turning all beings into his slaves and dominating all aspects of their lives, including their spiritual intelligence. This was a terrifying ability. And in the battle between the Miaozhen Daluo Immortals, the Miaozhen Dharma aspect would be used to its extreme, resulting in a collision of Great Tao against Great Tao, powerful enough to crush the universe. Guan hadn't completely lost himself. He looked at his attribute panel. He still had 2,100,000,000,000 years of lifespan. Not bad. This breakthrough cost a total of 1,800,000,000,000 years of lifespan. For the next breakthrough, at least 5 trillion years of lifespan would be required. Gu's mouth curled upward, feeling the surge of his newfound powerful mana, euphoric. This breakthrough also transformed his great Tao intent. His power had undergone an earth-shattering change. The celestial spirit god was getting farther and farther away from him. Guan didn't teleport back immediately. Instead, he cast his gaze towards the edge of the Hongmeng Great World. The Hongmeng Great World had no connection to the path of the Great Tao nor any space-time channels, seeming like an isolated universe that continuously extended endlessly. There were no beings he recognized here, but there was some kind of will being stirred by the anomalies caused by his breakthrough. Under Guan's gaze, a terrifying figure, almost imperceptible, wandered in the darkness, only perceivable by those possessing the Daluo Tao fruit. Its shape resembled a dragon, its forelimbs and claws were as long as a dragon's body, its head crowned with antler-like appendages that stood tall like mountain peaks. Two river-like entities flowed around its neck, the nature of which even Guwen couldn't discern. Celestial Judge Qiong Luo, middle stage of celestial creation Daluo Immortal Realm 907, 872, 609, 327, 874/2, 000, 000, 000, 000, 000, 000/5, 000, 000, 000, 000, such a long number. 5 trillion years of maximum lifespan. If killed, that would be a fortune. Guwen thought to himself, of course, he wouldn't do that. He had no desire to become Long Zhan. Besides, he currently needed lifespan, but it wasn't urgent. Guwen looked in other directions, curious if there were other beings within the Hongmeng Great World. On looking indeed, he found many wills. They had no flesh but each was powerful, the weakest among them possessing the cultivation level of a Taiqing Golden Immortal Realm. The Hongmeng Great World was truly not simple. Suddenly, Gu An's gaze fixed in one direction. Far in the distance, infinite Hongmeng purple qi coalesced into a huge egg, larger than the entire celestial spirit Great World, surrounded by swirling Hongmeng purple qi. Guwen couldn't use lifespan detection on it, nor could he see through its true nature. Though curious, he had no intentions of disturbing it. It appeared the Hongmeng Great World harbored many secrets. Guwen watched from within the lifespan barrier for a while before choosing to teleport back. This return trip consumed another 100 billion years of lifespan. Sarthanav Iyer. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Back in the celestial spirit Great World, Guwen stood in a forest, opening his eyes to see, one by one, great thousand worlds, cosmic domains, little worlds, and mortal realms entering his view. But he couldn't see the Hongmeng Great World. Beyond this universe there was another universe. Above this heaven and earth there was another heaven and earth. He seemed to exist in an infinite world, which made him reflect on the enduring nature of the Great Tao. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 615 Celestial God Cataclysm. Guwen stood in the forest for a while, then he withdrew his gaze and stepped forward. With one step, he returned to the Taoist field of the beginningless. Due to Tianhao's return, the disciples gathered in Gu An's courtyard, creating a lively scene. They listened to Tianhao recount his experiences over the years, occasionally expressing their admiration, giving great face to Tianhao, whose smile never faded. Tianhao was narrating a battle with a peerless genius when his gaze suddenly turned to the courtyard wall, where he saw Gu An's figure. "Master!" Tianhao exclaimed in surprise, drawing the attention of others who turned to look and saw Guwen return, prompting everyone to rise. As Guwen walked into the courtyard, Tianhao approached him excitedly, saying, "Master, I've broken through to the Tao Void Profound Immortal Realm." Hearing this, Guwen revealed a smile and said, "Not bad, you haven't been negligent. Disciple, your master has broken through to the Miaozhen Daluo Immortal Realm." Guwen said this to himself in his heart. He would never reveal his true strength to others, not even to those closest to him. The Tao Void Profound Immortal Realm is strong, but it still falls far short of Guwen. Guwen walked towards the crowd, with Tianhao following beside him, continuing to share his gains. In front of others, he might be humble, but in front of Guwen, he truly sought praise. After a while, everyone sat around the artifact refining cauldron, with Shenzhen and an Exen also arriving, and they all chatted about worldly affairs together. Aside from Tianhao, only an Exen, Shenzhen, Celestial Demon Child, Celestial Cyan, and Tianbai occasionally ventured out of the dojo. The others always stayed within, cherishing such opportunities to learn about the outside world, hence the spirited atmosphere. Nowadays, in the human world, there are many sects worshipping immortal gods. I used to think these sects were all frauds until hundreds of years ago when I encountered a genius from such a sect, who unleashed power beyond his cultivation level, truly surprising me. Tianhao brought up this topic with a reflective look. He turned to Guan and asked, "Master, how do you view immortal gods? Do real immortal gods exist? I mean those born as gods, controlling everything, not the strong ones cultivated." Everyone else also looked at Guan, anticipating his answer. Guan responded, "In this world constructed by the great Tao, any being you can imagine might indeed exist, but no one possesses absolute power." Tianhao fell into contemplation. The others wondered, compared to immortal gods, who is stronger, our master or the gods? Guan then posed a question to everyone. If thousands of years pass and you have reached the pinnacle of the celestial spirit great world, will you stay here or seek a higher path? The celestial demon child immediately replied, "Master, wherever you go, I will follow." Blood Prison Great Saint gave her a sharp glance. How could she respond so quickly? To prevent others from following suit with flattery, Guan shook his head and said, "Think carefully about this question. Don't rush to answer." He stood up and walked towards his house. Having just made a breakthrough, he prepared to reassess his Miaozhen Dharma aspect. Who knows who will be fortunate enough to first experience the power of his Miaozhen Dharma aspect. Under the sunlight, the summer wind stirred the flowers and grass in the mountains, creating waves of green, a sight so beautiful that it could refresh anyone's soul. Liya stood on a mountain ridge, his expression odd as he looked at the person before him. The person standing before him was none other than the Golden Extreme God from the Celestial Court. Even while roaming the human world, the Golden Extreme God wore no disguise, not even concealing his golden divine armor. Under the sunlight, his armor reflected an unusual brilliance. Again with that, an old Taoist once said the same to you. You people are really something. Liya couldn't help but speak sarcastically. He was referring to the deity of the moon, who had offered him immortal brew, scaring him initially, but after many years with nothing eventful, he realized he had been duped. Hearing Liya's response, Golden Extreme God arched an eyebrow, his calculations causing his expression to become intriguing. Seeing him put on airs, Liya grew even more irritated. The world is really full of more and more charlatans. Liya immediately turned and prepared to leave. You truly have become an innate body, just that you lack a suitable cultivation technique, which is why you haven't felt your own transformation. The voice of the Golden Extreme God came again, making Liya pause in his steps. Liya half-turned, looking sidelong at the Golden Extreme God and asked, "Oh? Then can you tell me what an innate body is?" The Golden Extreme God, expressionless, said, "Everything has an origin, so does the human race. The very first of the human race were born on a higher plane, naturally possessing innate bodies, capable of comprehending the great Tao. Now, you possess the qualities of your ancestors, unmatched by anyone in this realm." Liya wasn't surprised. He asked with interest, "Then can you pass on to me the cultivation technique of the innate human race?" Search * the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. "Of course I can," the Golden Extreme God replied. However what? Faced with Liya's persistent query, the Golden Extreme God did not answer anymore. Instead, he raised his right hand, causing a ring of light to form next to him, expanding rapidly, turning pitch black inside. Liya frowned. He wasn't panicked and continued to stand his ground and wait. Soon, the ring of light grew taller than the Golden Extreme God, and within it, a blood-colored figure could be vaguely seen. Seeing this figure, Liya furrowed his brows tighter, feeling an intense aura of bloodlust. "This person is from the innate human race. Let him be your opponent. You're of the same realm. If you can defeat him, then you are worthy of receiving everything you desire." As the words of the Golden Extreme God fell, Liya's pupils widened suddenly. Clang! Liya drew the 9 Extremes Sacred Heart Sword with incredible speed, blocking another sword that resembled a shark tooth with his blade. A long-haired man enveloped in a bloody aura appeared before Liya. This man was bare-chested with muscles like tree roots coiling over his flesh, creating a strong visual impact. What powerful chi power! Liya inwardly gasped, his arms trembling. With a bang, a terrifying force exploded, instantly obliterating the green grass across the hills, turning the continuous mountains into wasteland, darkening heaven and earth. Li Ya and the long-haired man turned into two beams of sword qi shooting into the sky, with myriad sword qi descending from the heavens, ravaging the earth and mountains, with explosions occurring one after another, shaking the heavens and earth. The golden extreme god looked up with a cold gaze. It's too slow, perhaps it's time to give the human world a little push, to let the mortal spirits know who is protecting them. The golden extreme god muttered to himself, the ring of light beside him growing ever larger, with shadows walking out of it, each not weaker than the long-haired man. Far away inside the Taoist field of the beginningless, Guwen opened his eyes. His eyes reflected the figure of the golden extreme god. The fate of heaven and earth changed. All because the golden extreme god harbored ulterior motives. He intended to use his bred innate human race to suppress the world, then play the role of a celestial god savior. However, things wouldn't go as he wished, thus attracting more consequences from outer heaven. Playing God with such a mindset shows a lack of reverence for the great Tao. Guwen murmured softly. He did not regard the golden extreme god highly, he just didn't want to be disturbed, but if indeed there were changes, then he would be forced to harvest lifespan. Even a mighty celestial god couldn't foresee that his selfishness would bring about a disaster that could overturn his dominion. The so-called power seems only to be strong enough in their own eyes, even the strongest cultivators couldn't see through their own fate. Guwen gained a deeper understanding of fate and causality. He began to deduce along the lines of the golden extreme god. He saw many figures. Inside the golden extreme god, there was a world, hiding an army capable of destroying the great thousand world. He saw thousands of companions beside the golden extreme god. He also saw a figure standing above the great Tao, overlooking all heavens. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 616 Wuxia appears. Guwen watched Li Ya's battle and was quite satisfied with Li Ya's growth. The golden extreme god intended to recruit Li Ya and would not let him die, so Guwen had no intention of intervening. It had been tens of thousands of years. It was time to let the human world experience some turbulence. Trials could be opportunities for all living beings. Peace does not necessarily mean safety, and great destruction could lead to rebirth from nirvana. Guwen continued to close his eyes and refine his Miao Zhen Dharma aspect. In the years that followed, in less than a decade, the innate human race released by the golden extreme god became a major scourge in the world. This innate human race had a heaven-encompassing free immortal, more than 10 profound yuan free immortals, and cultivators from various realms below that, even the least among them possessed the immortal Tao realm. They rampaged everywhere, slaughtering living beings to establish their territories, causing shock throughout the world. Being prisoners of the golden extreme god, they saw this as their only hope, so they fought fiercely even if it meant making enemies of the whole world, and they did so with insanity. Yet the most powerful, the heaven-encompassing free immortal, kept a low profile, never making a move, uncertain of whom he was wary about. Time flew swiftly. 100 years had passed since the golden extreme god released the innate human race, and they had become the most feared race in all the world. Although they were of the human race, their methods were brutal, they claimed innate supremacy, earning the disdain of the human race in the celestial spirit great world. The innate human race not only killed, but they also conquered human imperial dynasties and sects, spreading their descendants and forming numerous factions in the human world, bringing disasters everywhere. At noon this day, Xiaolan returned to her grotto heaven. She made her way to Guwen's side. Guwen was meditating by the lake, seemingly deep in concentration, but he was actually pretending. Brother Gu, the Tao court is preparing to expel the innate human race. I too must go to battle. It might be many years before I can return. Xiaolan sat beside Guwen and spoke. She was neither frightened nor reluctant to leave Guwen. Her heart was filled with anticipation and excitement. After tens of thousands of years of cultivation, she finally saw a chance to demonstrate her strength. She was still in the carefree primordial immortal realm, but not far from advancing to the divine immortal of wondrous Dharma realm. Guwen looked at her and said sentimentally, "My dear Laner is really grown up, about to become a savior." "Not really, I'm just following the seniors to battle. Of course, if I come across someone suffering, I will lend a hand," Xiaolan said with a smile. The Dao court's ideals were upright, worthy of being the leaders of the righteous Dao, with the majority of disciples bearing the responsibility to relieve suffering. Encountering people in distress and not offering help would contradict the identity of a Dao court disciple. Due to Xiaolan's connection, Guwen often visited the Dao court and established many contacts there, which allowed him to understand the Dao court from the grassroots level. While there were indeed dark affairs within the Dao court, the disciples believed that as long as these were exposed, the Dao court would provide the answers they sought. Xiaolan began to talk about the deeds of the innate human race. This group of the human race didn't come from outer heaven but suddenly sprang up in the human world, making the Dao court's higher-ups wary. Xiaolan heard from one of her free immortal masters that the Dao court had begun to inspect every secret realm in the human world to prevent future calamities like the innate human race. Guwen pretended to be greatly enlightened, satisfying Xiaolan's desire to share. Once she recalls her past life memories, she won't be this lively anymore. Guwen thought to himself, cherishing the current time they spent together. Though the soul had not changed, memories could affect one's personality. What couldn't change was only the innate nature. The two talked for several hours before Xiaolan finally got up to pack her things, and Guwen continued pretending to cultivate. As Xiaolan left, he could also focus his attention elsewhere. When the Dao court officially declared war on the innate human race, the morale of all beings in heaven and earth surged. More and more sects, imperial dynasties, and races joined the siege against the innate human race, including the Qianquan sect, the Tai Tsung imperial dynasty, and the Supreme sect. However, even facing the siege of the entire world, the innate human race displayed terrifying strength. Even the great cultivators of the Dao court couldn't penetrate the territories established by the innate human race. Battles began to turn into the main melody of heaven and earth. Guwen still frequented various dojos, picking mature medicinal herbs. Even though he had reached the level of the Miao Zhen Daoyuo Immortal, Guwen didn't deliberately seek to increase his lifespan, maintaining a healthy rhythm that neither invited trouble nor overburdened him. As his old friends also got drawn into the conflict with the innate human race, his life became interesting, and watching his old friends' experiences added anticipation to his life. Sia the Novel Fire. NE*T website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Battles among the strong were the easiest way to become famous. For mortal spirits, cataclysms were disasters, but for those chosen ones, they were enormous stages. More and more chosen ones became famous throughout the world. Those guided by the golden extreme god all rose up, extensively promoting the celestial name of the profound star immortal monarch, thereby elevating his status in the hearts of all beings. 300 years had passed since Xiaolan joined the battle. Early in the morning, Guwen returned to the Taoist field of the beginningless, holding the white spirit rat in his arms, which had become smaller compared to the past, about the size of a cat but still chubby. "If you cause trouble in the mortal world again, I won't let you go out." Guwen spoke as he walked, his tone somewhat strict. The white spirit rat shrunk its head, not daring to make a sound. A figure appeared under a tree ahead. It was Qinchuan. He quickly came up to Guwen and bowed, then hesitated to speak. Guwen smiled. "Speak what you wish to say." He already knew the purpose of Qinchuan's visit, having contemplated this matter on his way. Nowadays, the innate human race is causing chaos. In the past years, evil demons of the innate human race attacked the Qianquan sect. We want to go out and expel the innate human race. The Qianquan sect has suffered many casualties due to the demons of the innate human race, and surely the mortals below are living even harder lives. Chen Chuan mustered his courage and spoke, his tone uneasy. Having stayed in the Taoist field of the beginningless for 70,000 years, he hadn't yet gone out, and he knew that his current strength was not yet enough to satisfy his master. Guwen looked at him and said, "Then go, and tell the others that anyone who wants to go can go. I allow you to use the Tao treasures, but once this calamity ends, you all must return. Chen Chuan was overjoyed and quickly thanked Guan, not expecting his master to agree so readily. He immediately went back to pass on the news. Guan continued to walk leisurely forward, constantly teaching the white spirit rat. Elsewhere, the disciples gathered together, hearing that Guan agreed to let them go. Everyone was delighted, even the celestial demon child wanted to go. Indeed, our master still cares for all living beings of the world. We must perform well and not tarnish the name of the beginningless, LV Xian said excitedly. He had long wanted to go out and experience battles with the strong ones of the world. The others nodded, and after chatting for a while, they all went back to prepare, leaving only an Xian, Shenzhen, and the ghost mother of Ephemera unprepared to go. The ghost mother of Ephemera did not believe she was qualified to go. Shenzhen looked toward an Xian curious, "Aren't you going either?" An Xian casually answered, "I'll go when master lets me. I want to stay by his side and cultivate." If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 6:17 Tai Immortal Monarch. Curse Shenzhen looked deeply into An Xin's eyes after hearing her words and suddenly felt that an Xin might be the last among these disciples to achieve the greatest success. After experiencing the mortal world, how many could return to dedicated cultivation? An Xin turned to look at Shenzhen and asked with a smile, "Elder Shin, why don't you go out?" Although Shenzhen's realm wasn't remarkable, and she hadn't sparred with them, with her Dao treasure, Shenzhen would be safe on outward journeys. Moreover, their master wouldn't just stand by idly. "Even staying here in the dojo, I can still experience the mortal world," Shenzhen said softly with a laugh. With that, she turned and walked away. An Xin stared at her receding figure, feeling that Shenzhen was somewhat profound and inscrutable. "While they're away, I should focus on my cultivation to widen the gap between us," an Xin thought silently, a smile forming on her face. She didn't linger, exchanging a few words with the ghost mother of Ephemera before returning to her training. She was different from Qin Chuan, LV Xian, and others. She harbored grander ambitions and was committed to a more resolute path. Taizong Continent, North Sea Mountain Ridge. The mountain god temple was nestled in the dense forest, where profound mystery Jinren was watering the plants and flowers in the medicine garden. Over 80,000 years had passed, and he had become a celestial and earthly immortal, regarded as an immortal by all creatures of the North Sea Mountain Ridge. He had been courted by sects and imperial dynasties alike, all of which he declined. No one knew why he guarded the mountain god temple, many speculating he was indeed the mountain god, living in reclusion during times of peace, ready to descend the mountain when the world faced calamity. At that moment, it was nearing noon. A series of panicked footsteps came from outside the temple, followed by an emaciated man in tattered clothes running inside. His hair was disheveled, his face streaked with blood. Upon seeing profound mystery Jinren, he fell to his knees with a thump. "Immortal, save me!" The skinny man cried out earnestly, his voice filled with misery. Profound mystery Jinren didn't look at him and casually said, "Don't underestimate the power of the Taizong dynasty, and besides, I don't have the strength to save the world." Upon hearing this, the skinny man stopped crying and looked up at profound mystery Jinren, asking, "Then, can you ask the mountain god to take action?" Profound mystery Jinren halted his work and turned to look at him, his gaze calm. "You've been here 3 times. This is the 3rd. Are you so certain of the mountain god's existence?" Profound mystery Jinren asked indifferently. He was no longer the naive person of the past. Today, he would mention the mountain god, but only as a legend, no longer fervently proclaiming his existence as he had before. It wasn't that he had ceased to revere the mountain god, but that he understood the mountain god's intentions. The mountain god was just one of that being's identities, as was the supporting Dao sword venerable. Rather than eternally protecting all living beings, the mountain god likely wished for them to possess the capability to protect their own world. Moreover, profound mystery Jinren wasn't convinced that the innate human race was a dreadful existence, especially compared to the past cosmic calamities. The current situation seemed more like a well-prepared trial. Perhaps it was the work of the immortal gods spoken of in the world. At any rate, Profound Mystery Jinren didn't believe in the legends of immortal gods like the Profound Star Immortal Monarch or the Golden Extreme God. Faced with Profound Mystery Zenren's gaze, the skinny man revealed a look of panic. No need for further pretense. Speak, what is your origin, and what is your purpose here? Profound Mystery Jinren asked coldly, pressuring the man with the imposing aura of a celestial and earthly immortal. Boom! A shocking boom echoed from afar, and looking up, one could see a blood-red rainbow light appearing in the sky. The innate human race was battling fiercely against the Tai Tsang imperial dynasty, and this conflict was affecting the entire Tai Tsang continent. The surging aura from afar did not affect Profound Mysterious Jinren as he looked coldly down at the gaunt man kneeling on the ground, his gaze icy, as if two blades were piercing through the man's heart. The gaunt man bowed his head as he slowly stood up. It's rare to find a devotee like you in the human world, worshipping a non-existent mountain god here for tens of thousands of years. Your devotion has moved me. The gaunt man spoke, and his tone seemed transformed, lacking the previous panic. He slowly lifted his gaze, and his pupils turned an eerie silver blue, which made Profound Mysterious Jinren frown. The mountain god you worship does not exist, but there are real immortal gods worthy of your devotion, said the gaunt man with a mysterious tone. Profound Mysterious Jinren said mockingly, Oh? You also believe in the Profound Star Immortal Monarch? And how will you prove the existence of Profound Star Immortal Monarch? The gaunt man shook his head and said, No, I do not follow Profound Star Immortal Monarch. I am a devotee of another immortal monarch, known as Tai Immortal Monarch. He is far greater than Profound Star Immortal Monarch. He has created and saved the world, and it is his great virtue that has earned him a position amongst the ranks of immortals, while Profound Star Immortal Monarch merely inherited his immortal position. Tai Immortal Monarch? Profound Mysterious Jinren was hearing this name for the first time. He furrowed his brow and asked, Who exactly are you? The gaunt man replied, Who I am is not important. I am simply a follower of Tai Immortal Monarch. My life once plunged into darkness without hope, and it was he who saved me. There are many like me in this world. You are not the first one I've sought out. Followers of Tai Immortal Monarch are unlike the lapdogs of Profound Star Immortal Monarch. They blindly proclaim his strength in ignorance. Aren't you doing the same as them? Scoffed Profound Mysterious Jinren. The gaunt man smiled and said, Naturally, it's different. I only speak of Tai Immortal Monarch to those who share our path. The Immortal Monarch once said that when he truly saves all living beings, then we can praise his name. The biggest difference between him and Profound Star Immortal Monarch is, he acts first and seeks recognition later. Profound Mysterious Jinren fell silent. He wondered what Tai Immortal Monarch's true intentions were. Could it be that both Profound Star Immortal Monarch and Tai Immortal Monarch truly exist, and they are engaged in an open and secret struggle, competing for the hearts of all living beings? He felt it was quite possible, and this thought made him somewhat disdainful of both immortal gods. Such behavior, how is it any different from mortals? The immortal gods in his heart should be high above, without a tint of mortal desires. The gaunt man took a step forward and said, What's known as the innate human race are actually the slaves bred by the Golden Extreme God under Profound Star Immortal Monarch. Their madness stems from trying to grasp a sliver of hope. The human world now is a sea of suffering, whether for us or the innate human race, everyone is struggling desperately. Only by believing in the coming of Tai Immortal Monarch can we see a glimmer of hope. Profound Mysterious Jinren asked, If Tai Immortal Monarch is in charge of this matter, what need is there for you or me? The heavenly Tao has its celestial rules. Tai Immortal Monarch cannot descend directly unless there are people in this world who believe in him and appeal to the heavenly Tao with great vows, then the heavenly Tao will permit his arrival. Our great vows do not require numbers, but a heart of devotion. My faith is not enough, perhaps due to my insufficient Tao practice, or maybe I haven't lived long enough. You have worshipped the mountain god for who knows how many years. The great vow you can bring must surpass mine. As the gaunt man spoke, his gaze towards profound mysterious Jinren grew increasingly fervent. Hearing this, profound mysterious Jinren lost interest and said, "Whether what you say is true or false, I only believe in the mountain god. Go find someone else." If the heavenly Tao does not allow Tai Immortal Monarch to descend, there must be another reasoning. The mountain god does not have such constraints. Comparing the two made profound mysterious Zenren's respect for Gu and reach a new height. Immortal gods seek names, seek faith, whereas the mountain god seeks nothing. The gaunt man's brows furrowed, and his gaze turned displeased. Profound mysterious Jinren humphed. "What now? Do you intend to force me?" He did not take the gaunt man seriously at all. Could a Mahayana cultivator pose a threat to him? The gaunt man stared at profound mysterious Jinren, gritted his teeth, and said, "Although my cultivation level is inferior to yours, I can still curse you. Your disrespect for Tai Immortal Monarch will surely bring misfortune upon you. Your loved ones will die one by one in this catastrophe, and because of your lack of reverence, you will be harmed by heart demons, and your latter life will be mired in the agony of hell." Sir the Nefire. At website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. As he spoke, his body began to split open, blood oozing out continuously, rapidly turning into a bloodied figure, with even the bones at his joints revealing a dreadful whiteness. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 618. Guwen and Li Xuanda. Watching the emaciated man's abnormal state, profound mysterious Zenren's brows furrowed tighter, and he immediately became cautious. Although the emaciated man's cultivation level posed no threat to him, the chill that ran down his spine as he listened to the man's curse was inexplicable. The bloodied, emaciated man's face twisted into a fierce grimace, his eyes filled with bitter resentment as he stared at profound mysterious Jinren. Quickly, the emaciated man dissolved into a puddle of blood, transforming rapidly into a foul gas, leaving behind only a shallow pit. Profound mysterious Jinren looked at the pit, his brow tightly knit, his eyes filled with confusion, and his heart stirred with unease. He was full of dread for that Tai Immortal Monarch, feeling that Tai Immortal Monarch was even more fearsome than Profound Star Immortal Monarch. Profound Star Immortal Monarch, at most, made a fool of all living beings, while Tai Immortal Monarch would not tolerate any refusal from anyone, even being ruthless to his own followers. Could it be that the mountain god speaks the truth, that the immortal gods have no obligation to be kind to all living beings and that mortal spirits shouldn't assume their own perspectives when considering the immortal gods? Profound mysterious Jinren thought with a furrowed brow. The mere recollection of the emaciated man's face sent shivers down his spine. What right did a Mahayana realm cultivator have to curse him, a celestial and earthly immortal? But the mere thought of that enigmatic Tai Immortal Monarch prevented him from calming his heart. He could only focus on the medicinal herbs in the garden, hoping to divert his attention. The distant battle continued unabated, lasting several days, with the evil demons of the innate human race finally being expelled, and the Taizong dynasty once again defended its own territory. For tens of thousands of years, without Gu N's protection, the Taizong dynasty always turned misfortune into a blessing, its foundation growing ever deeper. Although the Taizong dynasty's tribulations had passed, profound mysterious Zenren's torment only increased. Since the curse, his cultivation practice grew increasingly agitated, especially at night, when his mana would run wild, and he began to see many illusions, all depicting the grisly deaths of his kin. He, too, had his own family and relatives. The Li family of the royal house of the Taizong dynasty was also of his lineage. He even envisioned the dreadful scene of Li Xuando's death and the great chaos of the Taizong dynasty, which only heightened his panic. He could only wait for the mountain god's arrival. Throughout the passing years, he had been able to meet the mountain god 2 or 3 times a month, and this was his confidence. He firmly believed that the mountain god was stronger than that so-called Tai Immortal Monarch. On the 7th day of being cursed, Gu En finally arrived. Gu En still appeared in the form of a masked figure, For over the years, he frequently guided profound mysterious Shinran in his cultivation. Although profound mysterious Shinran had guessed that he was the supporting Dao sword venerable, he still preferred this form when meeting profound mysterious Shinran. Seeing the mountain god leap down from the eaves, profound mysterious Shinran stood up excitedly and said directly, "Preeminent mountain god, I have been cursed." Guwen replied casually, "Don't worry, let me pick some medicinal herbs first." Hearing this, profound mysterious Shinran immediately breathed a sigh of relief. The mountain god could surely see through his condition. Telling him not to worry meant that the mountain god believed the matter was not difficult to resolve. Half an hour later, after profound mysterious Shinran finished sewing, he approached Guwen. Before he could speak, Guwen waved his sleeve, and a fresh breeze swept towards him. After the wind passed, he felt an immense sense of relief, as feeling unburdened washed over him. It was quite marvelous. The oppressive feeling from the past few days disappeared instantly. Profound mysterious Shinran immediately knelt down, thanking Guwen for saving his life. "There's no need for such formality. You were targeted by others because you've been worshipping me for years. In fact, you could leave. There's no need to stay here. I am not the immortal or god you think I am. Staying here, such troubles could potentially arise again in the future," Guwen said lightly, looking down at the kneeling profound mysterious Shinran from his diminished stature. Profound mysterious Shinran looked up at him and spoke earnestly, "I understand that my perspectives in the past were too narrow. I am willing to worship you forever. You taught me how to cultivate, and I can also help those suffering who pass by. My current life is quite enjoyable to me." He spoke the truth. He felt that without Guwen's guidance, he could never have reached the realm he had, let alone lived so many years. Following Guwen, he saw the hope for longevity. He no longer hoped that Guwen would become the immortal god he wished for, because Guwen could grant him the power to fulfill his own ideals. Immortal gods truly had no reason to help mortal spirits, but he could, and the reason was simply that he wanted to help. Guwen sprang up, stepping on his head to leap to the roof's edge, his back to him. He said, "Reflect on what being cursed feels like. It might just be an opportunity." Profound mysterious Shinran was stunned for a moment, and before he could respond, Guwen had vanished into thin air. He didn't ask whether the curse was completely eradicated. He sat down where he was, closed his eyes, and began to recall his feelings over the past few days. Guwen had not left the Taizong continent, but instead, he went to the imperial palace of the Taizong dynasty. Li Xiandao was practicing in the imperial study, which had been transformed to have a vast interior space with a spirit pool, enabling him to cultivate while reviewing memorials. Footsteps reached Li Zuando's ears. He opened his eyes to look, his face immediately breaking into a smile as he got to his feet, his dragon robe lifting with splashes of water, which swiftly evaporated. "You're here, let's have a good drink today," Li Xiandao said warmly as he looked at Guwen. Ever since Guwen had sent Yang Jian thousands of years ago to support Li Xiandao, the two had built a deeper relationship. Every few decades, Guwen would come to drink with Li Xiandao. He no longer offered tangible assistance, merely chatting with Li Xiandao. Li Xiandao didn't expect much. In fact, being able to see Guwen gave him great confidence. Just thinking of Guwen gave him a fearless vigor. Sar the Ovalfire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Guwen smiled and nodded, and after a while, courtesans brought in wine and dishes, setting them on the long table. They snuck curious glances at Guwen. In their lifetimes it was the first time they saw His Majesty entertaining someone in the imperial study, and this person was quite young. While they were setting up, Li Xiandao brought up recent developments with Long Teng. He had invested all his efforts in cultivating Long Teng, making him a renowned prodigy across the lands and the greatest pride of the supreme mysterious dynasty. He had his own little guess, suspecting that Long Teng was a descendant of Guwen, due to the Dharma aspect summoned by Long Qing on that day being too similar to Guwen. Even if he were wrong, at least Long Teng was a grand disciple of Guwen. Although Guwen understood his thoughts, he didn't mind. As long as the outcome was positive and the process enjoyable, he would accept it. Moreover, he quite liked Long Teng, feeling that this lad was stronger than Long Qing, and his righteousness stood out even more than that of his other disciples. Once the courtesans had left, Guwen spoke, "This world will see the rise of another immortal monarch." Upon hearing this, Li Xuando's smile faded, and he furrowed his brow. Thousands of years ago, he had proactively told Guwen about recruiting the followers of the profound star immortal monarch, and this also showed he trusted Guwen more. The followers of the profound star immortal monarch had given him great support, so he didn't deliberately suppress them. He kept his promise by erecting numerous divine statues of the profound star immortal monarch within the imperial dynasty, but he always had reservations about the immortal monarch. Now, with another immortal monarch arising, he suddenly felt the calamities of the world weren't so straightforward. Could the appearance of the innate human race be more than just a coincidence? Guwen recounted the experiences of profound mysterious Shenren. Since profound mysterious Shenren and Li Xiandao were of the same lineage, Li Xiandao had also visited profound mysterious Shenren many times over the long years. Hearing of profound mysterious Shenren's curse, Li Xuando's face turned grim. Guwen was telling him these things not because he expected him to do anything, but simply as a friend, sharing the oddities he had encountered recently. Guwen wasn't afraid of Tai Immortal Monarch finding out. He could change Li Xuando's fate, allowing Li Xiandao to remember these things, while others could not divine that he knew of them through Li Xiandao. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 619. Wuxia saves the world. Immortal gods want to vie for the hearts of all beings in the celestial spirit great world? Li Xiandao asked, frowning. Guwen was pouring himself a drink as he said, "Perhaps, facing the strife among immortal gods, what do you think mortals should do?" After pondering for a moment, Li Xiandao replied, "Go with the flow, as there is a will of heaven in the unseen, as if they never existed." There was a desolate feeling in his heart as he spoke these words. Even though mortals can practice immortal cultivation, the prospect of truly ascending to immortality was so distant. Even Li Xiandao himself, as the emperor of the Taizong dynasty, with all the resources of the world at his disposal, still could not see a hope of ascension. Guwen, where exactly are the immortal gods? What are they thinking? Li Xiandao looked at Guwen and couldn't help but ask. Guwen shook his head and replied, "I'm not an immortal, how would I know where they are or what they're thinking?" Li Xiandao looked at him but felt that he was no less than the immortal gods. Could it be that Guwen chose to seclude himself in this great world because there were secrets unknown to others hidden here? Otherwise, why would two immortal monarchs come here? Guwen heard what was in his heart but didn't deny it. In fact, he too was wondering why the Tai Immortal Monarch had also come. Was it because of a grudge against the profound star Immortal Monarch? Or for some other reason? The Dao treasure stolen from Emperor Ziwei by the celestial spirit Immortal Venerable was the world punishment Dao Pearl. This treasure followed Anhao in his reincarnation, hidden deep within Tianhao's soul. Guwen had felt the power of this treasure. It was indeed strong, but not enough to drive the immortal gods mad. Guwen was curious, but he did not pay too much attention. For now, it seemed to be just a covert struggle between two immortal monarchs and did not yet represent the celestial court. The fate of the world might change with the intervention of outer forces, but the changes would also appear before his eyes, allowing him to respond in advance. After discussing profound mysterious Shenren, Li Xiandao brought up the prodigies of the world. Knowing that Guwen was not telling him these things as a warning but just wanted to chat, there was no need to inquire all the way to the end. In the Taizong imperial dynasty, he was the sky, but compared to the ethereal immortal gods, he was no different from dust. As they chatted, Li Xiandao brought up Tianhao. Tianhao was truly too dazzling, which made him think of Anhao. Even though, realistically speaking, Tianhao's growth rate was more exaggerated than Anhao's, he felt that if Anhao were still around, he might not be inferior to Tianhao. Both of them had Hao in their names, as if it signified some kind of legacy. Even with the innate human race causing chaos in the world, they could not steal the spotlight from Tianhao because he too was combating the innate human race, maintaining an undefeated record. Tianhao was shedding the identity of a prodigy. Perhaps, after this calamity, he would be a giant of heaven and earth. Guan and Li Xiandao enjoyed their drinks and conversation, and gradually, Li Xiandao forgot his worries. Only in Guan's company did he not need to be overly cautious. He relished this atmosphere. Thunder rumbled and seas of clouds churned. Meteors ablaze with flames fell from the sky, smashing into the earth, which was covered by seas of fire, and the crisscrossing fissures on the ground were so shocking to behold. Suspended in midair were figures enshrouded in blood qi, all hailing from the innate human race, over 100 of them, each one with cultivation level of immortal Tao. They all looked in the same direction, their faces filled with horror and despair. Looking in the direction of their gaze, beneath the thundercloud stood a figure proudly against the sky, his hair dyed with blood dancing in the air, his physique robust, holding a broad saber in his hand. The light of the blade flowed along the edge, piercing through the clouds, as countless meteors whizzed by him, striking the earth, shaking heaven and earth. It was the Blood Prison Great Saint. This was a domain of the innate human race, and the bustling city that had existed here just an hour before had now turned to ash. What exactly is that treasure? An old man stared intently at the heaven-breaking blood prison saber in the hands of the Blood Prison Great Saint, clenching his teeth as he asked. His companions around him couldn't answer him, and even those with a realm higher than the carefree primordial immortal couldn't understand. The gaze of the Blood Prison Great Saint turned towards the boundless sea of fire below. In one corner, flames surged into a scorching whirlwind, forming a safe zone at the center where tens of thousands of silhouettes stood. All these people were cultivators captured by the innate human race, their eyes filled with joyful surprise as they looked at the Blood Prison Great Saint. The Blood Prison Great Saint held the heaven-breaking Blood Prison saber aloft with one hand, a defiant smile on his face, his heart brimming with exhilaration. He had been bottled up for 80,000 years, and now, this kind of slaughter-filled battle was the life he had truly longed for. Massacring the innate human race and being revered as the savior by all living beings, how could it not be joyful? Even if you beg for mercy, I shall not spare you. Sia the Novelier. T website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The Blood Prison Great Saint declared arrogantly, laughing wildly like thunder, resounding through heaven and earth. Tens of millions of miles away, Chenchuan and Shengtian and Xianxia stood on a cliff, with green mountains stretching out behind them and a dark, smoke-filled world ahead. Hearing the words of the Blood Prison Great Saint, they couldn't help but exchange looks. Why does it feel like this guy is the true apocalyptic evil demon? And Shengtian muttered, unable to restrain himself. Xianxia shook his head with a wry smile. Master made him a mount for a reason, at least it spared the human world one disaster. Chen Chuan didn't laugh, his brows furrowed. Don't you think it's strange how the evil demons of the innate human race seem never-ending? We've been out for 1,000 years, killed so many, but do you feel like their offensive has weakened at all? He disliked slaughter, and 1,000 years of experiences made him detest the innate human race and long to drive them out sooner. Perhaps there's a place connecting to outer heaven, with a constant stream of innate human race evil demons coming in as reinforcements, Xianxia speculated. And Shengxian's eyebrows rose. So if we don't resolve that place, this calamity won't end? Chen Chuan narrowed his eyes. That's right, we can no longer run around like headless flies. Our cultivation level might not be strong, but with the 4 Tao treasures combined, we can certainly end this catastrophe and carry on the Wuxia name. A millennium of wandering had spread the name of Wuxia throughout the human world, but Chen Chuan felt it was far from enough. His master had saved the human world many times over, yet people had forgotten him, with voices of faith in immortal gods everywhere now. This dissatisfaction was palpable. He wanted to make all living beings realize who it was that propped up the celestial spirit great world. When Shengtian heard Chen Chuan's words, his heart stirred, and his face lit up with anticipation. We could go find Celestial Demon Child and the others. Having 3 more Tao treasures would give us even more assurance, Xianxia suggested. Chen Chuan nodded, his eyes gleaming. Wuxia disciples, wielding the 7 great Tao treasures to save the world. That story would be even more spectacular. The 3 exchanged a glance, leaped forward to aid the Blood Prison Great Saint, and prepared to quickly end the final battle. Meanwhile, under the World Gate, the celestial spirit god was watching them. Ever since Qin Chuan and the others had appeared, the might of the Dao treasures had caught the attention of the celestial spirit god. Tian Hao had 3 Dao treasures, and at that time, he was amazed at Gu An's capability to craft magical treasures. Now seeing that each of the Wuxia disciples held one, he was curious just how high Gu An's realm might be. Profound Star Immortal Monarch, Tai Immortal Monarch, and him, in this chess game, Golden Extreme God, you no longer have any hope for life, pitiful that you don't even know it. The celestial spirit god thought to himself silently. He then stood up and faced the World Gate, seemingly preparing to welcome the arrival of some entity. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 6:20 The 72 Immortals of Golden Cave. The celestial spirit god stood quietly in front of the World Gate, his gaze calm, his thoughts unknown. Time sped by rapidly. After a long while, the World Gate burst forth with strong light, dazzlingly brilliant, as 72 silhouettes stepped out, men and women both, dressed uniquely, yet all exuding an extraordinary aura, displaying the immortal light. The celestial spirit god's face changed slightly, clearly not expecting the identities of the newcomers. Leading the way was a man in a purple robe, wearing a divine crown with delicately embroidered patterns and luxurious crystals adorning his robe, and 2 dragon horns on the crown reaching to the sky as tendrils of blue flames swirled around him while he walked. The celestial spirit god immediately greeted them with a fist and palm salute. The man in the purple robe didn't respond to the celestial spirit god, walking straight past him, with the others following closely behind. Celestial spirit god, you've been guarding this place for so many years, it's time to bow down to Emperor Ziwei. A young man, clad in golden chain armor, holding a long spear, joked with the celestial spirit god. He walked amongst the crowd, and looking at him alone, his presence was no weaker than the celestial spirit god's. The celestial spirit god didn't make a sound, and the golden-armored youth, unangered, continued forward. Watching them fly toward the depths of the universe, the celestial spirit god reflected, Tai Immortal Monarch has actually sent the 72 immortals of Jin Dong. It seems the Golden Extreme God is destined to die. But, does the Golden Extreme God really warrant the collective arrival of the 72 immortals? The celestial spirit god thought of Guan. Could it be that Tai Immortal Monarch knew of Guan's existence? He had complicated feelings about Guan. Having once died at Guan's hands, there was enmity, but since Guan hadn't truly wiped him out and also showed immense kindness to his son, it made him unclear about his own feelings toward Guan regardless. It was none of his business. He just needed to sit here and watch. As the years meandered by, 5,000 years had passed since Guan helped profound mysterious Shinran lift the curse. While the whole world was contending with the innate human race, they couldn't completely eradicate them. Guan had also tried, quietly eliminating a wicked innate human race evil demon, but without receiving any lifespan notification. This innate human race had entangled themselves with a bizarre karma power related to the Golden Extreme God. Perhaps their lifespans had long been controlled by him. Unable to seize lifespans, Guan grew indifferent to further action, leaving it to the beings of this world to solve on their own. Although he didn't take action, it wasn't a sign of his indifference. His disciples acted at his behest, having saved countless lives over 5,000 years. Wuxi's fame had spread, and sects throughout the world knew of Wuxi's existence. Celestial Demon Child, Chen Chuan, and others hadn't exposed Guan's name. The world only knew of their origin from Wuxia, oblivious to the master of Wuxia. On this day, the weather was clear. Guan was instructing an Xian in the cultivation of the immortal Emperor's Eye. Ever since she had been stimulated by Tian Hao's celestial Dao destiny to a breakthrough, her comprehension of the immortal Emperor's Eye grew deeper. Although far from Guan's level of achievement, she could now wield the power of the immortal Emperor's Eye. Her immortal Emperor's Eye divine power wasn't karma divine power but a kind of devouring strength that could consume everything, turning it into her own power in a short time. This was a very practical divine skill for combat. The power gained from devouring was temporary, but in evenly matched battles, this could instantly turn the tide. She had only just begun to comprehend. If she were strong enough to devour a part of the great Tao and make it fight on her behalf, the mere thought of such a scene was terrifying. Years had passed, and though Enzin's comprehension was awakening, her combat talent was not exceptionally high. Now, with the Immortal Emperor's Eye, she finally had the qualifications to compete with Tian Hao. However, the Immortal Emperor's Eye was not related to the cause and effect of the Celestial Court, and it was not advisable to use it casually after leaving the dojo. Guwen looked at an Exen, smiling as he thought. Unconsciously, an Exen had become the person who had been his companion for the longest time. He was very fond of this obedient and filial disciple, and his favoritism was overt. He wasn't afraid of the envy from other disciples because he felt hardworking and Exen deserved such treatment. The mentor and disciple duo sat in the bamboo grove, an Exen with her eyes closed. On her eyelids, a pair of purple phantom eyes emerged, mysterious and eerie. Bamboo leaves fluttered down, one landing on Enzin's head. Suddenly, an Exen opened her eyes and looked at Guwen, saying, "Master, I have an ominous premonition. The more I comprehend this divine power, the stronger this feeling grows, as if some terrifying existence is approaching." Guwen replied, "Trust your feelings, it is indeed so. In fact, the divine power you're cultivating is no longer the Calamity Absolute Eye, but a powerful divine power called the Immortal Emperor's Eye, which can even invoke the fear of the immortal gods." An Exen felt this way because the number of immortal gods in the celestial spirit great world was increasing. Over 3,000 years ago, 72 immortal gods on par with the celestial spirit god came through the world gate, one of whom reached the Taiqing Golden Immortal Realm perfection. Guwen had calculated that they were intricately linked with Tai Immortal Monarch, implying these immortal gods were very likely summoned by Tai Immortal Monarch. They infiltrated the celestial spirit great world undetected, hiding their identity and presence, wandering amidst the human world. Initially, Guwen assumed they intended to emulate the Golden Extreme God and further propagate the name of Tai Immortal Monarch, but that was not the case. They seemed to be searching for something. Protected by the celestial Tao destiny, Guwen could not hear their innermost thoughts. Now Guwen suddenly had a guess. Could it be they were searching for the Immortal Emperor's Eye? Once the Immortal Emperor's Eye was perfected, it would alarm the celestial court, yet an Xian had not used the Immortal Emperor's Eye's power outside, so Guwen still had faith in the dojo. His thoughts then shifted to another person. Tian Hao. An innate immortal god. Such a being could not go unnoticed by the immortal gods. Speaking of which, Tian Hao was renowned throughout the land, yet Golden Extreme God had never sought him out. It might have been coincidental in the past, but the fact that they never met to this day was surely not reasonable. Could it be that Tai Immortal Monarch and Profound Residence Immortal Monarch bore no grudges, and instead, something in this great world necessitated their competition? Fear of the immortal gods? Can I still use it in the future? Will it bring trouble to you, Master? An Xian asked nervously. Guwen laughed and said, "That's why you must continue to cultivate, develop it to the realm of great achievement, being able to control the Immortal Emperor's Eye with ease, so that when you go out in the future, you won't reveal its aura." An Xian pondered and looking up at Guwen asked, "Master, could the current chaos in the world have been caused by the innate human race because of me?" Guwen said exasperatedly, "Do you think you're capable of that?" An Xian stuck out her tongue, chastened, her ears turning red, but she breathed a sigh of relief and smiled. It was good that it wasn't her. Although she did not have grand aspirations to save all living beings, she also did not want to bring about a world-ending calamity because of herself. However, there are currently dozens of immortal gods in the human world. Looking across the 3,000 great worlds, the place with the most immortal gods at the moment is our celestial spirit great world. Guwen's words piqued Enzin's interest, and she began inquiring about the whereabouts of the immortal gods. Source: Web novel. Com, updated on Envgo. Chapter 621, Purple Dragon Star Monarch, greater karmic ties, Guan shared his understanding of the Golden Extreme God and the 72 Immortals of Golden Cave, including the profound star Immortal Monarch and Tai Immortal Monarch. When an Xen first began to cultivate the Immortal Emperor's Eye, Guan felt she had truly grown up and should be introduced to the higher realms to broaden her horizons. An Xian was indeed shocked. Although tales of the immortal gods always circulated in the human world, she had not imagined so many immortal gods were wandering among humans. After listening to Guan's explanation, an Xen fell silent for a moment before looking up and asking, "Master, is Tian Hao the reincarnation of my senior brother?" Guan did not evade the question, he simply nodded. An Xian pressed on, "Did you let senior brother become an immortal god because his destiny pattern originally belonged to immortal gods? In his previous life, and Hao's talent was equally extraordinary, hardly that of a mortal being." Guan reflected aloud, "All one can say is, due to a mix of fate and chance, this was also the choice of the celestial spirit Immortal Venerable's will." He recounted the past of the celestial spirit Immortal Venerable, celestial spirit god, and an Hao, which made Nzin's eyes sparkle with a strange light. So the final great battle at the end of Era had so many grudges and grievances, her senior brother truly was the child of heaven and earth, adored by the universe. An Xian continued to inquire, "Master, if the profound star Immortal Monarch and Tai Immortal Monarch were to descend and either enslave all living beings or attempt to capture senior brother, what would you do?" Guan looked at her and asked with a smile, "What do you hope your master would do?" An Xian blinked and said, "Logically, I hope master would not get entangled in karma again, but deep down, I'm eager to see how master would fare in a contest with immortal gods." The descent of so many immortal gods excited an Xian. Her excitement wasn't about seeing immortal gods, but about her master's power. Despite the potential threats presented by so many immortal gods, master still faced the world with a smile. Just how profound was his Tao practice? Guan met her gaze and said, "Immortal gods are indeed powerful, and your master would not provoke them without cause. If an immortal god provokes you, would you kill them?" An Xian really wanted to ask this question, but she held back, not for fear of offending but because she wanted to retain some suspense and anticipation. While Guan and an Xian were discussing immortal gods, the wandering immortal gods in the human world finally met each other. Mountains surrounded a large lake, with dense forests by its edge where the mist rose among the trees. The Golden Extreme God stood at the lake's shore, frowning deeply while scanning all around him, clutching a long spear in his hand. "Golden Extreme God, you truly are exhaustive in your efforts. If I were the profound star Immortal Monarch, I would be moved and support you greatly." Who doesn't know that profound star Immortal Monarch has a mad dog at his disposal, committing acts that offend the heavens and harm reason? Without the profound star Immortal Monarch's protection, that mad dog would have been severely punished by the celestial punishment, turned to ashes. I heard that profound star Immortal Monarch once descended to have a secret meeting with a mortal woman. Fearing violation of the celestial rules, he let the Golden Extreme God extinguish his mortal offspring. A celestial god who chooses not to guard their domain but instead meddles in dirty affairs is truly laughable. Indeed, those who don't know might think he hasn't ascended to immortality. Why does the propagation of the great Tao require the personal intervention of a celestial god? Each voice came from different directions, laden with mockery. Looking closely, there were figures moving through the forest, and even on the surface of the lake, figures appeared as if hiding and emerging. Golden Extreme God didn't show anger. His expression was extremely ugly as he gritted his teeth and spat out 6 words, 72 Immortals of Golden Cave. A look of despair flashed in his eyes. He could tell that the incoming party harbored ill intentions. If it were merely a provocation, why would the 72 Immortals need to personally surround him? As he kept silent, the 72 Immortals of Golden Cave emerged from the thick fog, all of their gazes falling upon him, making him feel as if he were being pricked by thorns, deeply uneasy. Golden Extreme God tried to remain calm and turned his gaze towards the man in the purple robe with the most imposing aura, lifted his hand in salute, and asked, "Purple Dragon Star Monarch, What matter requires mobilizing all 72 immortals of Golden Cave? Purple Dragon Star Monarch was the leader of the 72 immortals of Golden Cave. Unlike the others, he hadn't mocked Golden Extreme God. The indifference on his face conveyed a sort of disdain that overlooked all. In response to Golden Extreme God's inquiry, Purple Dragon Star Monarch didn't answer. He took steps forward until, stopping, they were less than 3 paces apart. Golden Extreme God was burly, yet Purple Dragon Star Monarch stood a head taller than him so that in front of Purple Dragon Star Monarch, his imposing aura suddenly weakened. Purple Dragon Star Monarch slightly raised his chin, his gaze looking down at Golden Extreme God, who didn't dare to meet his eyes. Do you really think Profound Star Immortal Monarch sent you here to preach the Tao? You are, after all, a celestial god, Purple Dragon Star Monarch asked. Golden Extreme God's eyes flickered as he replied, I serve the Immortal Monarch, and I dare not ask too much. My only task received was to preach the Tao. Purple Dragon Star Monarch's expression remained cold as he continued, what the celestial spirit Immortal Venerable stole from the Ziwei Immortal Palace all those years ago wasn't just the world punishment Tao Pearl. Golden Extreme God looked up at him, his eyebrows knitting together as if he truly didn't know about this. Do you think Celestial Spirit Immortal Venerable managed to steal the world punishment Tao Pearl right before Emperor Ziwei's eyes for nothing? That pearl also harbored an even greater karma, and that was the true intention of Profound Star Immortal Monarch. Both Immortal Monarchs have sensed the destiny pattern of that existence being born. Purple Dragon Star Monarch spoke softly, his eyes turning sharp as he continued, currently, only the 2 Immortal Monarchs are aware of this matter, but it might not remain so in the future. Therefore, the less who know about this, the better. Golden Extreme God's face changed dramatically. He instinctively tried to step back, but a ray of golden light enveloped him, preventing any movement. With great difficulty, he looked up to see a golden umbrella unfolded above his head. The other immortals of Golden Cave continued approaching, while the gaze of the Purple Dragon Star Monarch in front of him became increasingly dangerous. Are you planning to slay a god? Golden Extreme God looked back at Purple Dragon Star Monarch, his voice edged with resolve. Expressionless, Purple Dragon Star Monarch replied, under the brilliance of heavenly Tao, how could we disobey the celestial rules? But we do need you to sleep for a period. As his words fell, he struck Golden Extreme God's chest with a palm, immediately destroying Golden Extreme God's physical body and turning him into specks of golden light. Then he withdrew his hand, and the myriad golden specks shrunk into his palm, coalescing into a golden pearl. He tossed it aside nonchalantly, and a 3-headed Golden Cave Immortal caught the golden pearl, immediately popping it into his mouth, beginning to chew and then swallow it down. The Immortals of Golden Cave observed this scene with mocking smiles. A female Immortal looked at Purple Dragon Star Monarch and said, Elder brother, we've waited so many years, yet we still haven't found him. In my opinion, why don't we crush this great world? If he's truly here, he would reveal himself. Her words garnered support from many of the other Golden Cave Immortals. No, this is, after all, the Great Thousand World. Even though destroying the Great Thousand World would not result in too severe a punishment for us, such an act would inevitably draw more attention. A great world that could gather and be destroyed by us. If you were in that position, wouldn't you have second thoughts? An elder immortal spoke up, his gaze fixed on Purple Dragon Star Monarch. Purple Dragon Star Monarch looked towards the celestial vault in the distance. The karma of this great world has been altered, but fortunately, legends still remain in the human world. Next, let's search for the supporting Tao Sword Venerable. The being granted entry by the supporting Tao Sword Venerable has been born into this world, and perhaps pursues the same goal as us. He likely hasn't left. Source, web novel. Com, updated on Envgo. Chapter 622, the name of Wuxia. When the 72 immortals of Jin Dong wanted to find Guan, as soon as the thought arose, Guan sensed it. He didn't care, he had already erased his causality in the world, even from his disciples and acquaintances. Of course, if the 72 immortals of Jin Dong came to the Qianxia sect, perhaps they could find him. But even if they found him, they wouldn't be in for a treat. Gu observed an Exen restarting her immortal cultivation, his thoughts falling on Tianhao. It now seemed that the celestial spirit Immortal Venerable had stolen not only the world punishment Dao Pearl from the Ziwei Immortal Palace, but also Anhao. Or rather, it was mainly about Anhao. The celestial spirit god had long delayed destroying the celestial spirit great world, and the celestial court had not urged it. Perhaps, deeper forces were preventing the celestial spirit, involving even Emperor Ziwei. Stronger forces were restraining the celestial court from destroying the celestial spirit great world, an event that did not leave Gu feeling fortunate. Without these causalities, Gu would not have come into contact with the celestial court so prematurely. Of course, these were just hypotheses. He had already established a connection with Anhao and the celestial spirit great world. He wouldn't avoid them unless he was truly no match. With the arrival of the 72 immortals of Jin Dong, the destiny of the celestial spirit great world changed once more. Gu calculated that the profound star immortal monarch and Tai immortal monarch would descend into this great world. After their arrival, the great thousand world would meet its end. Due to the celestial Dao destiny, the future had many vague areas, but he could see the general trend and duration. Celestial gods, star monarchs, immortal monarchs. Gu pondered the hierarchies within the celestial court, wondering what realm he needed to reach to not fear the court's threats. He began to feel the celestial Dao destiny. With the descent of the 72 immortals of Jin Dong, the celestial Dao destiny in the universe surpassed that of the past. The celestial Dao light layer enveloping the great world condensed infinite golden light, illuminating the universe, dazzling and bright. Gu had always been curious about celestial Dao destiny. At this moment, he realized that celestial Dao destiny was harder to comprehend than the great Dao, primarily because the great Dao had no will, whereas the celestial Dao seemed to harbor some will, possessing a strong exclusivity. After the golden extreme god was devoured by the golden cave immortal, the innate human race did not disappear. They continued to plague the human world, and they could not be completely eradicated. Although it was impossible to eradicate the innate human race in a short period of time, those who opposed them continued to build their renown. More and more prodigies rose. To the mortal spirits, this was the worst era, but for the sects of immortal cultivation, it was the best. They began using the innate human race to train their disciples. Time swiftly passed and 1,000 years went by. In the extreme northern lands of the world, snow filled the skies, and mountains and rivers were covered in snow. LV Xian, Blood Prison Great Saint, Shen Chuan, Celestial Demon Child, Celestial Scion, Tian Bai and Sheng Tian, and Jiang Shishing walked along the mountain ridge. The snow falling on them rapidly evaporated, turning into white mist and dispersing. "I didn't expect you to come," the Blood Prison Great Saint said with a smile, looking at LV Xian walking ahead. LV Xian snorted, "Nonsense, I am also a part of the beginningless. Naturally, I must unite with you." In these years he had fought alone, creating a significant reputation. Although not as famous as Tianhao, he was still among the top prodigies in the world. Hearing that the beginningless were gathering to save the world, he rushed over. Dao treasures could sense each other and even communicate, so coming together was not difficult for them. Hearing LV Xian's words, the others joined in the conversation. "Indeed, we should show the great cultivators across the world the prowess of our beginningless. The Canghai Profound Yin sect even dared to besiege me and the Blood Prison Great Saint. We must teach them a lesson," proclaimed Anhao. "Our primary target is to eliminate the calamity of the innate human race. Once this tribulation is over, we'll settle scores with those sections. With the cooperation of the 8 Dao treasures, no one in this world can stop us. The only mystery is what kind of entity the innate human race conceals behind them. Let's hope it doesn't alarm the master." Everyone discussed, brimming with confidence, a confidence imparted by the Dao treasures. After thousands of years of battles, they had grown significantly, each making progress. The least among them had reached the elevation of carefree primordial immortal, while the Blood Prison Great Saint and Celestial Demon Child had even ascended to the divine immortal of wondrous Dharma realm. The Dao treasures contain the intents of different great Daos. always ready to aid them in enlightenment. During battles, the intent was maximum, thus every battle brought them profound insights. As the beginningless disciples moved forward, several figures dashed through the distant snowy fog, disappearing. They headed in the same direction as the beginningless disciples, who paid them no heed. In the subsequent times, many surpassed them, vanishing into the fog ahead while they maintained a steady pace, discussing both their individual feuds and the affairs of the world. After a long time, they walked through swathes of fog and reached the edge of a cliff, standing side by side and looking ahead to a majestic icy lake. Nestled among mountains, the high surface of the lake threatened to flood over the peaks and deliver a cataclysm to the lands behind them. Looking around, the cliffs surrounding the icy lake were crowded with countless figures grouped by forces, with tremendous demons swirling in the clouds above. The scene was truly awe-inspiring. LV Xian gazed down at the icy lake and asked, "Is this the source of the innate human race? Why haven't any evil demons emerged from it in these days?" Celestial Demon Child responded, "Unclear, but the world is abuzz with this news, and with so many sects rushing here, there must be some basis." Others sent their divine sense toward the icy lake, and quickly sensed a vast aura swirling beneath, blocking all attempts at spying with divine sense. Sensing this unfathomable aura, the beginningless group's expressions turned solemn. Not only them, but the newly arrived cultivators of other sects also changed color at this discovery. A figure descended from the sky, landing behind the group, who turned and smiled in pleasant surprise. It was Tian Hao. Tian Hao laughed and greeted, "Fellow Taoists, brothers, sisters, it has been a while. I knew you would come." They immediately gathered around him, chattering away. In the distance, disciples of the Qiankuan sect watched this scene, exchanging looks of curiosity about Tian Hao's relationship with the beginningless group. The leading Gu Qingdao watched the scene, his expression unchanging, as he led his disciples towards an unclaimed peak. Various sects deliberated what might be hidden beneath the icy lake. Due to Tian Hao, the beginningless group attracted considerable attention, and soon, the news that Tian Hao originated from the beginningless spread, making all sects warier and more curious about the beginningless. The Tao treasure of beginningless was renowned across the world, as up to now, no one had defeated a beginningless Tao treasure, even those whose realms far surpassed the disciples wielding them. The actions of beginningless over the years had been very conspicuous. Now, hearing that Tian Hao came from beginningless inspired awe in all who heard. Could the beginningless possibly be a force even stronger than the Tao court, capable of producing the number one pride of heaven? Suddenly, an immense oppressive force descended, followed by a voice echoing across the icy and snowy lands, "I am Elder Fu Chun of the Tao Court. I will open the barrier beneath this lake. Only fellow Taoists who have reached the ninth heaven of the Immortal Path may enter the lake with me. Others must stay outside to guard against any attack from the innate human race." As the voice faded, the sea of clouds above churned violently, forming a massive vortex. The beginningless group looked up to see a giant sword materializing at the center of the vortex, larger than mountains, a broadsword with a sharp blade and ancient hilt, exuding an air of endless antiquity. As the sword descended, its handle became visible, with an old Taoist standing upon it, his right hand on his chest, casting a spell. "That's one of the 4 divine swords of the Tao court, the sky-breaking sword," someone exclaimed, revealing the origin of the sword. Source: Web Novel. Com, updated on Envgo. Chapter 623, The Strategy of Golden Cave. Gazing at the imposing sky-breaking sword, the cultivators from various sects were shocked, while the people from Taoist field of the beginningless compared this sword with their Tao treasures. They found that although the sword was stronger, it did not possess the great Tao intent like the Tao treasures. The reason their Tao treasures were not as strong as the sky-breaking sword was still because their Tao practice was not sufficient. If they had the cultivation level of the Tao court Elder Fu Chun, the Tao treasures in their hands would definitely be more terrifying than the sky-breaking sword. They looked at the sky-breaking sword, and began to fantasize about how powerful their Tao treasures would be at their strongest stage. Tian Hao also summoned his 3 Tao treasures, Divine Punishment, Celestial Punishment, Immortal Punishment, 3 Dao spears hovering around him, exhibiting their respective glories. The blood prison great saint glanced at him, his eyes filled with envy. It was said that these 3 Dao treasures could also condense formations, and their offensive power was considered the strongest among Dao treasures. The blood prison great saint could only envy silently. He knew he was no match for Tian Hao, but he believed he would surpass Tian Hao one day. Tian Hao was already standing on his own, and given this situation, it was unlikely that he would return to the Taoist field of the beginningless often. Even though his relationship with Gu Wen would not end, it would inevitably become distant. The blood prison great saint had seen such situations several times. And Hao, Yang Jian, Long Qing, all considered themselves extraordinary, but after leaving Gu Wen, they either died or vanished into the mortal world. As he had stayed by Gu Wen's side all along, he had now become divine immortal of wondrous Dharma and wielded a Tao treasure exclusive to himself. He had inquired and found out that those who reached the stage of divine immortal of wondrous Dharma within 1,000,000 years were considered to have exceptional talent and immense destiny, and he had reached this realm in less than 100,000 years. If there had been no Tian Hao in the world, he would have been at the pinnacle of the cultivation speed. Thinking of this, the blood prison great saint smiled, no longer envying Tian Hao, and even started to look forward to the future. Will Tian Hao regret his current choice billions of years later? And by then, he would surely regard immortal gods as mere trifles. The more the blood prison great saint thought about it, the more excited he became, even forgetting to pay attention to the ice lake. The sky-breaking sword continued to descend, and the surface of the ice lake surged with flame-like icy vapors, as if a giant hand wanted to block the sky-breaking sword. Standing on the hilt of the sky-breaking sword, Dao Court Elder Fu Chun's eyes turned cold, and an immense and boundless aura erupted from within him, making the sky-breaking sword flash with sword light. Boom! The sky-breaking sword trembled, then plunged violently downwards, hitting the surface of the ice lake, and the terrifying aftermath forced the cultivators from various sects to retreat en masse, immediately gathering their mana to resist. The weakest of the cultivators who were able to come here were of the realm of celestial and earthly immortals, possessing the ability to fly to outer heaven, but at this moment, facing the power of the sky-breaking sword, they all felt as feeble as insects. After pausing for a moment, the sky-breaking sword abruptly pierced through the ice lake. The celestial demon child only felt the world before her eyes suddenly shatter. She blinked subconsciously, and when she reopened her eyes, the sky-breaking sword was already gone. She saw innumerable Dao Court cultivators descending from the sky like a flurry of carp and diving into the ice lake. Looking down, she saw that the surface of the ice lake had shattered, revealing a vast black hole, flickering with blood-colored lightning, resembling the entrance to hell, a sight that struck terror into the heart at mere glance. The voice of the blood prison great saint came from beside her, "We should also go down. Staying behind to guard is not a task for us from the beginningless." As soon as he finished speaking, he took the lead and rushed downwards, with LV Xian, Chen Chuan, and Sheng Tian following closely behind. The celestial demon child came to her senses and, along with the others, flew downwards. Tian Hao watched from a distance towards Chengkuan sect. Gu Chengdao gave him a nod, and he immediately followed the beginningless crowd into the black hole of the ice lake. After crossing a dark area, the celestial demon child felt the world spinning as she descended from the sky, arriving in a dim world. The ground was scorched red, not a blade of grass in sight, and white bones dotted the landscape like snowflakes. Giant mountains in the distance spewed hot magma. The sky was covered in rolling black clouds, oppressively looming, and the black hole above the celestial demon child's head seemed terrifyingly vast, as if a great hole had been torn in the celestial vault. "We should stick together in this place. Something is not right here." Xianxia spoke, and the others had no objections, quickly gathering together. Out in the world for thousands of years, Xianxia's strength was not the top among them, but his steadiness and meticulousness made him the backbone in their actions. Chen Chuan looked towards the distance, observing the Dao Court cultivators flying like a dragon towards the faraway lands, and his sword-like brows furrowed. For some reason, upon entering this realm, he felt an indescribable horror, unable to control his emotions. Tian Bai cautiously asked, Do you all feel like we're being watched? And Xianxia surveyed the surroundings and responded, Indeed, everyone be careful. We can't afford to be complacent just because we have Dao treasures. I'll lead the way, follow me. Blood Prison Great Saint spoke up and then flew off in one direction, not following the main Dao court force. The others followed closely, each tightly holding their own Dao treasures. Before long, as they were still flying, a sudden, overwhelming and terrifying aura burst forth from afar, startling them into an immediate halt. Foolish mortal spirits, you dare to burrow into hell itself, truly seeking death. A cold voice echoed through the heavens and earth. Following that, a blood light swept across the celestial vault, stirring the boundless sea of clouds. Instantly, the Dao treasures in the hands of the beginningless group lit up protective shields, blocking this surge of impact. Despite that, they all still felt the shock. Xianxia, Celestial Cyan, and Tianbai had blood trickling from the corners of their mouths, faces filled with terror. Xian quickly raised his hand, and the 12 extreme heaven calming world bead flew above everyone, rapidly expanding, emitting strong light, creating layers of Dao light with each layer being a different color, layer upon layer forming a gigantic tower's phantom image, where each layer of Dao light reflected the heavens and earth if looked at closely. Celestial Cyan lifted the Cyan Hong Linglong Tower, Tianbai held the White Spirit Exquisite Tower in one hand and cast spells on it with the other. From within the twin towers emerged two mystical birds, one cyan and one white, intertwining as they rose high, spreading their wings over the phantom tower, creating a second layer of defense. Before they could even discuss their situation, a deafening roar came from the distance, with the oppressive might of battle sweeping over them, drastically changing their expressions. What kind of realm is this? And Xianxia exclaimed. He thought of the oppressive force that the mysterious outer heaven evil demons brought to all beings at the end of the last era. Equally impenetrable, equally invincible. Just as Xian was about to speak, a violent wind came sweeping from afar, a blinding light submerging everything between heaven and earth, causing all things to lose their color. Meanwhile, alongside a great river, the 72 immortals of Golden Cave were advancing. Purple Dragon Star Monarch led at the forefront, looking at his right hand where a blood pearl floated in his palm, displaying a great battle within it, including the figure of Tian Hao. Tens of thousands of Dao Court great cultivators were surrounding a world-level evil demon of the innate human race. The vast majority could only maintain the formation, unable to join the battle. Tian Hao's figure was reflected in Purple Dragon Star Monarch's eyes. The golden armored youth floated next to him, curiously observing the blood pearl in his hand. This Tian Hao has an ordinary destiny pattern, but considering his age, his cultivation level is quite impressive, the golden armored youth remarked, clicking his tongue in amazement. As an immortal god, just one glance at Tian Hao was enough for him to know Tian Hao's background. Purple Dragon Star Monarch, emotionless, said, with such talent, his destiny pattern cannot be ordinary. Maybe someone has concealed his destiny pattern. Oh, could he be the one we're looking for? Could it have been the work of celestial spirit Immortal Venerable? The golden armored youth pressed on. Purple Dragon Star Monarch replied, well, no, soon enough. He lifted his left hand, fire igniting at his fingertips, quickly forming Golden Extreme God's soul body. Golden Extreme God looked up at him, eyes full of fear. Without saying much, Purple Dragon Star Monarch tossed his soul body into the blood pearl. The golden armored youth laughed playfully. No need for Golden Extreme God to act. That world conceals a heaven-encompassing free immortal, enough to force out the person behind the scenes. Purple Dragon Star Monarch spoke softly. I'm not trying to force out Celestial Spirit Immortal Venerable or supporting Dao Sword Venerable, but Profound Star Immortal Monarch. The golden armored youth was momentarily stunned, then his face broke into an excited smile. He turned to the immortals of Golden Cave behind him and exclaimed, hey, we're going to battle Profound Star Immortal Monarch. The Golden Cave immortals had various expressions. Some were as excited as the golden armored youth, while others frowned with worry on their faces. However, no one voiced objections. They just directed their gazes towards Purple Dragon Star Monarch. Source: Web Novel. Calm, updated on Envgo. Chapter 624 World-subduing floating mountain aspect. Heaven and earth were in a tumultuous state, with fierce winds and swirling sand mingled with shattered bones rampaging across the landscape, as if nature itself was in a furious rage, punishing those who dared to offend it. Tens of thousands of great cultivators from various Dao courts were arrayed in a formation, spanning over tens of thousands of miles. Their immense mana converged into a giant azure formation, its light piercing the sky. Within the light, silhouettes of azure fish could be seen fleeting across, and within the formation, azure winds formed streams converging upon 7 great cultivators. These 7 great cultivators were all profound yuan-free immortals, with cultivation levels that reached the heavens and penetrated the earth. Their mana made it difficult for the tens of thousands of great cultivators maintaining the formation, almost all of whom were trembling. The 7 profound yuan-free immortals were jointly attacking a colossal figure that was 100 zhang tall. No matter how they attacked, they could not shake this colossal figure. This figure, with its upper body bare, resembled most of the evil demons of the innate human race. It had disheveled hair and held a dark long saber in its hand. Its body was surrounded by a bloody aura, which blocked all spells and divine skills from all directions. Despite the divine skills employed by the Dao Court's profound yuan-free immortals, they simply couldn't penetrate the bloody aura surrounding him. He had his eyes closed, seemingly still in slumber, unaffected by the attacks around him. Meanwhile, more cultivators were continuously arriving from distant places, joining the encirclement. Those from the Taoist field of the beginningless had also arrived. And Sheng'an widened his eyes and swallowed nervously, asking, "What realm is that guy in?" Every cultivator aligned in the Dao Court's formation seemed profoundly inscrutable to him, not to mention those 7 great cultivators within the formation. So many powerful beings gathered yet unable to shake an evil demon of the innate human race? Perhaps resolving him could end the calamities brought by the innate human race. LV Xian mused solemnly. The stronger the opponent, the more excited he became. If the Dao Court could resolve the innate human race, how would they have a chance to showcase their prowess? Suddenly, a tremendous presence emanated from behind those of the Taoist field of the beginningless, startling them and causing them to turn their heads. Not just them, but the other cultivators who were fighting also turned to look, only to see a rainbow light speeding towards them like a rushing sun. In a flash, the rainbow light soared over the heads of those from the Taoist field of the beginningless and directly entered the formation, which offered no resistance to it. The rainbow light halted, its brilliance dissipated, and a Taoist in white robes appeared. He had the youthful appearance of an elder and held a horsetail whisk. His long eyebrows and beard emphasized his transcendent aura. He looked at the 100 zhang tall figure and said, "Elder Zhu, long time no see." Indeed, he was the master of the Dao Court, Yuan Songzi. Seeing Yuan Songzi appear, the great cultivators on the side of the Dao Court all breathed a sigh of relief and smiled. The Dao Court, as an alliance-like sect, had managed to gather various sects together and establish a new sect. The leader of such an influential lineage surely possessed extraordinary capabilities. The great cultivators present were all high-ranking members of the Dao Court and had witnessed Yuan Songzi's capabilities to some extent. In their hearts, Yuan Songzi was the strongest being. As long as he was present, all difficulties would be resolved. The 100 zhang tall figure then opened his eyes. He looked at Yuan Songzi, his fierce face showing no change in expression, and said, "You're called Yuan Songzi, right? It indeed hasn't been easy for you to come to this great thousand world and to possess such immense fortunes of heaven and earth." Yuan Songzi smiled and replied, "It has indeed been eons, and the world has transformed tremendously since we last parted. Being able to meet in this great world is also destiny, but I wonder, Elder, how did you come to find yourself in such a state?" Hearing Yuan Songzi knew the evil demon of the innate human race, the cultivators of the Dao Court looked at each other in bewilderment. They did not take the matter lightly and continued maintaining the formation. Those from the Taoist field of the beginningless were also curious. Led by Xianxia, they flew towards the back of the 100 zhang tall figure. Offending beings one should not provoke leads to such consequences, Yet you still have a slim chance of survival. You should leave quickly. The being referred to as Elder Zhu responded, his tone indifferent but not forceful. Yuan Songzi said helplessly, I am already the sect leader of a sect, bearing the lives of all living beings in the world. How can I flee? From what the elder suggests, it seems you too are compelled against your will. In that case, I can only apologize as I must defend. As his voice faded, he raised his left hand and gently swung it, causing a majestic green mountain to rise up behind him, swiftly growing flowers, grass, and trees. These trees quickly took root and sprouted, growing enormously large as if a divine army stood upon the mountain. The green mountain surged into the clouds at an incredible speed, expanding in bulk in less than 2 breaths of time, filling the space within the formation and leaving the cultivators outside staring in astonishment. Even for those from the Dao court, it was the first time most had seen such a mountain. As soon as the mountain appeared, Elder Zhu's oppressive presence was immediately weakened. Is that a divine skill or a magical treasure? Such terrifying suppressive force, even though separated by the formation, I feel my mana being restrained. The master of the Dao court is said to be the great cultivator of our time, possessing the finest treasures and divine skills of anyone. It seems that the rumors are not unfounded. Indeed, not to mention our master, he truly deserves to be called the best of our era. This must be some kind of power of the great Dao. The inhabitants of the Beginningless were amazed by Yuan Songzi's power. Facing the divine skill displayed by Yuan Songzi, Elder Zhu's eyes flashed with admiration and he exclaimed, I had not expected you to refine the world-subduing floating mountain aspect to such a degree. Giving you this legacy was not a waste, but alas, you have not stepped into the realm of Luotian and in my presence, you are still but an ant. As his words fell, his expression turned fierce. He suddenly raised his long knife and in a flash of the blade light. Boom! The Dao court's grand formation was instantly shattered, a terrifying shockwave flinging everyone, including the 7 profound Yuan free immortals who had previously surrounded Elder Zhu. During their backward flight, half of the great cultivators from the Dao court side were annihilated. The people from Beginningless, thanks to the protection of their Dao treasure, managed to survive, but were completely disoriented, staring unbelievingly at Elder Zhu. Standing in front of the world-subduing floating mountain aspect, Yuan Songzi furrowed his brows as he raised his hand to block the knife energy, with the giant green mountain behind him trembling as if it were about to shatter. Waves of shock surged within Yuan Songzi's heart. Heaven-encompassing free immortal. He had not expected Elder Zhu to have reached such a realm. He remembered that when they had first met, Elder Zhu had lamented that he could not surpass the profound Yuan realm in this lifetime. In an instant, many terrifying possibilities flashed through Yuan Songzi's mind considering Elder Zhu's current state. To eradicate all of you, and to cut in half the destiny of the celestial spirit great world, Yuan Songzi, blame only your fate that your cultivation level cannot see through the consequences behind this. Elder Zhu's voice sounded again. Yuan Songzi's expression changed drastically as an unimaginable terrifying power assaulted him, leaving him unable to resist. Boom! Yuan Songzi's robes shattered, resembling a burst of blood flowers, as he fell into the giant green mountain, which immediately broke apart. The blade energy swept across the land, cutting through the world-subduing floating mountain aspect, severing the earth, and reaching to the very edge of the heavens, seemingly poised to split the whole world in two. Although the inhabitants of Beginningless were not directly in the path of the blade energy, they were still blown towards the horizon by the aftershocks, unable to defend themselves. Their Dao treasure could only protect their lives. With this slash, outside the world, in reality, all living beings looked up to see a magnificent blood-red rainbow in the celestial vault, splitting the sky into two. Even Shenzhen at the Taoist field of the Beginningless saw it. Sitting in front of the artifact refining cauldron, Shenzhen turned to glance at Guwen not far away, reclining on a chair reading a book, and asked, with such commotion, aren't you planning to take action? She could feel the oppressive force from Elder Zhu, which, despite the great distance, filled her with terror. Such a being was beyond any worldly power to confront. Source: Web novel. Com, updated on Envgo. Chapter 625. Mysterious Magic Shadow Master. Upon hearing Xinzhen's words, Guwen did not stand up or look towards her, merely responding casually, "Don't worry, the ones showing off their power are just pawns. This world is not going to be exterminated yet." Pawns? Xinzhen was stunned. She stood up and walked towards Guwen. She squatted down in front of Guwen and feigned helplessness. "Can I watch this great battle?" In the past, Guwen had used his divine skills to let them peer into the battle from beyond the heavens from within the dojo. She was eager to know who was carrying the terrible pressure that enveloped the heavens and the earth, and what kind of being would appear next. Guwen waved his hand casually, and Xinzhen turned her head to see blue smoke coalescing on the artifact refining cauldron, showing the scene within that mysterious world. Elder Zhu, holding a long saber, stood like a primeval demon god amidst the mighty clouds of dust, towering into the sky with unparalleled dominance. Xinzhen immediately sent a message to an Xian and ghost mother of ephemera, inviting them to watch the battle. Yuan Songzi, who had reached perfection in the profound Yuan-free immortal realm, was no match for Elder Zhu, who shattered the hope of the Dao court with a single strike. Yuan Songzi, deemed invincible in the world by the hearts of Dao court cultivators, could not withstand even one move from Elder Zhu, and those who survived did not dare to step forward. The heavens and earth were vast, and evil demons of the innate human race started flying into the black hole in the sky, signifying that the external defenses had been breached. "I had intended to slowly grind you down, but you insist on delivering yourselves to death. The calamities brought by the innate human race to this world are not of an apocalyptic nature." The voice of Elder Zhu boomed, deafening and stimulating every cultivator's divine sense. Upon witnessing his power, most people indeed felt regret, thinking they should not have come. The followers of Wuxia burst out of the rolling dust clouds and regrouped, looking towards the gigantic figure in the distance with eyes full of terror. Blood Prison Great Saint muttered under his breath, "This is tough to chew." The aftermath of just one strike had already left them in such a sorry state. How terrifying might it be to face this evil demon directly? The others also found themselves in a predicament. Parting now would leave them with a sense of unwillingness. If this battle did not end the innate human race, then the human world would be utterly doomed unless their master intervened. LV Xian suddenly frowned, his gaze locking onto a figure in the distance. It was Tian Hao. While everyone else was retreating in fear, Tian Hao was the only one charging towards Elder Zhu. 3 Dao spears glowed with mighty aura, shielding Tian Hao as he quickly approached Elder Zhu. The 100-meter-tall Elder Zhu looked down at Tian Hao, his eyebrows slightly furrowed. The innate human race had been descending upon the celestial spirit great world for thousands of years. Although he had not appeared in the world, he had been paying attention to the human world and was aware of Tian Hao, the contemporary greatest prodigy of the world. With his insight, he had determined that Tian Hao's destiny pattern was extraordinary, yet he could not fathom it, indicating that a transcendent being was protecting Tian Hao. He did not want to get involved with such a person. Although he was now a prisoner, he was not foolish. With so many worlds in the Great Thousand World, the Golden Extreme God had chosen the celestial spirit great world and made them pawns. Clearly, this world contained a great cause and effect. When he sensed that the strongest person in the celestial spirit great world was merely at the stage of the profound Yuan-free immortal realm, his wariness of the celestial spirit great world deepened. Tian Hao looked at Elder Zhu, his eyes devoid of fear. He knew he was no match for the elder, but he had to stand up and show the world through his actions that they had no room to retreat, and they must fight. Many gazes and divine senses fell on Tian Hao, bolstering his courage. He grasped the divine punishment spear, pointing it at Elder Zhu and said, "With your abilities, the innate human race would have swept the world long ago. Who exactly is supporting you from behind? Could it be one of the immortal gods rumored in the world?" A figure appeared beside him out of thin air. It was the master of the Dao court, Yuan Songzi. Yuan Songzi looked all right, just pale. He spoke gravely, "Child, do not act recklessly. This man is named Zhu Guanghan. In another Great Thousand World, he was once the leading prodigy, with talent not inferior to yours. Moreover, 100 billion years ago, he was already at the stage of the profound Yuan-free immortal, and now he has reached even higher levels. He knew Tian Hao. Although not a disciple of the Tao court, he admired Tian Hao and did not want him to perish here. Profound Yuan-free immortal. 100 billion years ago. Tian Hao's face changed. The cultivators who could enter this realm all had high cultivation levels, and even though they were far away, they could clearly hear Yuan Songzi's words. Everyone's expression dramatically shifted, a chill emerging from their hearts as they struggled to comprehend the kind of being they were facing. Zhu Guanghan, hearing Yuan Songzi's words, did not respond, only looking at them coldly. Tian Hao, despite his recklessness, realized the gap and did not dare to make rash moves. The world fell into an eerie silence. Yuan Songzi sensed something was amiss and frowned. "Who are you waiting for?" More and more evil demons of the innate human race appeared in the distance. They did not attack, merely standing far away, making the atmosphere in the world increasingly oppressive. It wasn't just Yuan Songzi. Other cultivators also sensed something wrong. At that moment, rolling clouds of blood appeared above Zhu Guanghan, moving rapidly, drawing everyone's attention. "What is that?" Celestial Sign widened her beautiful eyes and asked softly. Even the usually talkative blood prison great saint fell silent at this moment, his gaze fixed on that mass of blood qi. He could sense that a being even more terrifying than Zhu Guanghan was about to descend. And Zhu Guanghan did not even look up. What did that indicate? It indicated that the comer was an associate of Zhu Guanghan. Zhu Guanghan alone had already made them unable to resist. Why then was there an even stronger presence arriving? What exactly had brought them here? Soon, a golden light pierced through the mist of blood, illuminating heaven and earth, and a figure with an invincible aura descended. It was none other than the Golden Extreme God. The Golden Extreme God, a true God incarnate, looked down upon all with disdain, showing no signs of the embarrassment of being suppressed by the 72 immortals of Jin Dong. Upon his arrival, everyone felt a sense of awe, even feeling an impulse to kneel, including Yuan Songzi. The disparity in realms was simply too vast. Even Tian Hao stared dumbly at the Golden Extreme God, void of any desire to fight in his eyes. Within the golden light, the gaze of the Golden Extreme God focused on Tian Hao, seemingly piercing through him. The Golden Extreme God did not speak. He lifted his right hand, and his index finger pointed toward Tian Hao. Tian Hao, immobilized by the aim, felt an overwhelming sense of suffocation, causing his pupils to constrict. Far below the world gate, the celestial spirit god opened his eyes, and amidst the intense light, his eyebrows slightly furrowed. Su Jin, who was cultivating in the Chengkuan sect, also opened her eyes and clutched her chest, feeling restless. Could it be Hauer? Su Jin furrowed her brows, mumbling to herself. She wanted to get up, but not knowing where to find Tian Hao, she had no choice but to sit back down. Facing the pointed finger of the Golden Extreme God, Tian Hao could only hear his own heartbeat, intense like never before. For the first time, he felt that he might actually die. This feeling was horrendously awful. Yuan Songzi wanted to intervene, but he found himself unable to move. He could only watch as Tian Hao stood beside him, facing death. Suddenly, several figures appeared before Tian Hao, led by the people of Wuxia, each holding a Tao treasure. They lined up 8 Tao treasures radiating Tao intent, forming a spectrum of light that shielded the front. Tian Hao inexplicably breathed a sigh of relief. His 3 Tao spears also burst forth with Tao intent, merging with the Tao intent of the other Tao treasures to collectively resist the Golden Extreme God. The Golden Extreme God stared at the people of Wuxia, his eyebrows knitting together. He could see that these treasures were not simple, having witnessed LV Xian in combat before. The Tao treasures had made an impression on him, but he had not anticipated that there would be so many of such treasures. Interestingly, his divine sense enveloped heaven and earth, yet he failed to detect the presence of these Tao treasures. Wuxia? Who is backing you up? The Golden Extreme God asked, managing only to deduce the name Wuxia, which remained mysterious in his predictions. Yet he was not afraid, for he had someone behind him as well, and not just the profound star immortal monarch. Beyond the boundaries, the 72 immortals of Jindong were also observing. The people of Wuxia did not respond. They simply exhausted all their strength to resist the aura of the Golden Extreme God. Although the Tao treasures were strong, the gap in their cultivation levels compared to the Golden Extreme God was too vast. Even without the Golden Extreme God taking them seriously, they struggled to withstand his presence. Tian Hao, watching the backs of the celestial demon child, blood prison great saint, and others, felt profoundly touched. These were the people who had watched him grow up, and in his heart, they were like family. Watching his senior brothers and sisters protect him, he also felt a thrill of excitement. As a child, he had fantasized about fighting alongside his brothers and sisters, almost forgetting about his childhood hopes. Seeing that they refused to answer, the Golden Extreme God snorted coldly and pushed his finger forward, releasing a terrifying aura that seemed to crush the people of Wuxia. Yuan Songzi, being the closest, felt as if his soul was about to scatter. As a fully realized profound Yuan-free immortal, fear was all that remained in him, unable to maintain the usual indifference. However, the sensation of terror came quickly and left just as quickly. He felt as though he had fallen from the sky to the ground unharmed. The sense of survival after a calamity made him gasp for air, and he looked up at the Golden Extreme God with confused eyes. However, he saw the Golden Extreme God frowning, his gaze seeming fixed on someone. He unconsciously followed the direction of the Golden Extreme God's gaze. There, he saw a figure enveloped in dark purple demonic qi standing above Tian Hao. Tian Hao, LV Xian, and others also turned their heads to look. Tian Hao turned around, his face showing astonishment, while LV Xian, celestial demon child, and others breathed a sigh of relief. 80,000 years had passed. The world had long forgotten this shade of demons, and the cultivators in this realm, faced with this shadow of demons, felt only confusion and curiosity, with no one recognizing the origin of this demon shadow. Master! LV Xian exclaimed excitedly, turning his head back to face the Golden Extreme God, his eyes filled with contempt, as if to say, "You're finished." Master? Tian Hao widened his eyes, looking closely. The silhouette of the demon shadow indeed resembled his master. He had not expected his master to appear. He had never seen Guwen in action and thought that Guwen, having retreated to the Taoist field of the beginningless, would disregard worldly affairs. The Golden Extreme God, looking at Guwen's demonic shadow, asked, "Are you the master of Wuxia?" Guwen did not respond. He stepped forward from in front of Tian Hao, and LV Xian, celestial demon child, and others made way, their gazes filled with adoration and fervor. Yuan Songzi, looking closely at Guwen, could not see through him. The demonic qi around Guwen was so scorching it made his divine sense ache. Source: Web Novel. Com, updated on Envgo. Chapter 626. No need to take action. Personally watching Guwen's demonic shadow approach, the Golden Extreme God furrowed his brows. Although he couldn't see through the demonic shadow, he wasn't afraid. He was a celestial god, blessed by the celestial Tao destiny, and even if he couldn't overcome his opponent, he wouldn't be completely obliterated from existence. The Golden Extreme God didn't inquire about Guwen's origins, as asking would be meaningless. However, this fellow dared to walk directly towards him, and as a celestial god, he wouldn't just wait to be killed. His right palm lifted, facing Guwen. His expression was cold and indifferent. All cultivators, the innate human race and evil demons fixed their gaze on Guwen's demonic shadow, including Tian Hao and LV Xian. Tian Hao looked the most expectant and excited. Although he had sparred with his master, the gap in the cultivation level was vast, and he had no idea how strong his master truly was. Moreover, he had never seen his master fight a life-and-death battle with an enemy. He had only heard from his senior brothers and sisters about the past, which made him long to see his master's powerful side. A golden red light gathered in the palm of the Golden Extreme God. Lightning intertwined, resembling billions of demon birds screeching. The lightning illuminated the faces of all living beings between heaven and earth, making their expressions shift between light and dark. The heaven and earth began to tremble. The ground split open as if the world was about to collapse, permeated with a suffocating and dangerous aura. Yuan Songzi, who was nearby, could feel the terrifying power of the golden extreme god. His gaze fixated on Guwen, and he made a guess. Could it be the supporting Dao sword venerable? Has he not left? Although Yuan Songzi had never seen the supporting Dao sword venerable manifest a demon body, he had heard of the legend and even felt the supporting Dao sword venerable's formidable aura when battling with the celestial spirit god and the silent destruction god emperor. He could only think it was the supporting Dao sword venerable. The supporting Dao sword venerable hadn't left. As Guwen drew closer to the golden extreme god, more and more cultivators recalled the legend of the supporting Dao sword venerable. The golden extreme god raised his right hand above his head, the clouds above pierced by golden lightning bolts, which then interwove in his palm. Nature's spiritual energy rushed forth, forming violent winds that howled, making the trembling of heaven and earth even more intense. Zhu Guanghan watched Guwen with curiosity filling his heart. He silently stepped back, not interfering with Guwen's confrontation with the golden extreme god. In the eyes of Tian Hao and others, Guwen, who walked towards the thunder, appeared so powerful, his silhouette exuding an unshakable aura. The golden extreme god swung his hand towards Guwen. Endless golden lightning from all directions of heaven and earth struck at Guwen with a devouring force. Boom! Sir, the novel fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The vast golden lightning was instantly dispersed, and the golden extreme god vanished in a flash. The 100-foot-tall Zhu Guanghan widened his eyes in disbelief. He and his kin were enslaved by the golden extreme god, so he knew very well how fearsome the golden extreme god was. Even though he had become a heaven-encompassing free immortal, in front of the golden extreme god, he was no different from a mortal spirit. Such a powerful celestial god was completely no match for this man. He hadn't even seen how Guwen made his move. But he was sure that the golden extreme god hadn't merely dodged and disappeared but was obliterated body and soul. However, a celestial god could resurrect using the celestial Dao destiny, so it was challenging to kill him thoroughly. Therefore, he didn't pay attention to the golden extreme god but kept his eyes on Guwen, filled with fear. Everything happened too fast. Previously, the golden extreme god seemed capable of destroying heaven and earth, but now, the entire world was returning to calm. No one spoke, and most of the cultivators were dumbstruck, staring at the demonic shadow. Guwen halted his steps, slightly tilting his head as if glancing sideways at Zhu Guanghan, who wore a gloomy expression and did not turn to flee. He had long been a prisoner, with nowhere to escape, and he knew he couldn't escape, so he could only wait for his end. Meanwhile, in the courtyard of Taoist Field of the Beginningless, Shenzhen, and Exin, and Ghost Mother of Ephemera were staring at the illusion above the artifact refining cauldron. All three women widened their eyes, then turned their heads to look to the side. Guwen still lay on the chair reading a book, making them look back and forth, confirming that the demonic shadow on the battlefield was identical to Guwen's figure. Is that an avatar? An Exine couldn't help but ask Guwen. Guwen turned a page of his book and said, "Yes, dealing with those guys. Why should I personally take action? I'm very busy, okay?" Whether it's immortal gods or the innate human race, none can grant him lifespan. Hence, he naturally couldn't be bothered to act personally. Shenzhen, curious, watched the illusion above the artifact refining cauldron and discovered she couldn't perceive the cause and effect of that demonic shadow. You should know that she could even scrutinize the destiny of celestial spirit gods, but she couldn't see through an avatar of Guwen. How high exactly was Guwen's true cultivation level? Even after coexisting for more than 80,000 years, no one still knew Guwen's true cultivation level. Ghost Mother of Ephemera was also curious about this, feeling very emotional in her heart. Encountering Guwen was truly a tremendous opportunity. She became increasingly grateful to Guwen. What she had done could be replaced by anyone else. On the contrary, Guwen had given her opportunities that no other beings could obtain. On the shattered blood-red ground, whether they were cultivators or the innate human race, all stared blankly at Guwen. The stronger the momentum displayed by the golden extreme god previously, the greater the shock brought to them by Guwen. The innate human race felt even more desperate. In their eyes, the golden extreme god was the most powerful being, a capable and terrifying immortal god who brought them eternal despair, yet such a being was annihilated in an instant without any ability to resist. They were doomed. The innate human race that arrived in this realm were mostly the pillars of their community, and they were clearly aware of the consequences of this expedition. Many from the innate human race, also evil demons, showed a relieved expression. Compared to tortured life, if like the golden extreme god, they could instantaneously turn to ash and smoke, wasn't that a form of liberation? And painless at that. Zhu Guanghan thought so as well, thus he harbored no thoughts of resistance and quietly awaited the arrival of death, his gaze continuously fixed on the demonic shadow of Guwen. Very formidable. Are you the supporting Dao sword venerable? A playful laugh rang through the heavens and earth, the voice youthful, reminiscent of a young boy. Figures appeared out of nowhere around Guwen, all shimmering with dazzling immortal light, illuminating the entire dim heaven and earth. Tian Hao, Yuan Songzi, and others were startled awake by the sudden arrival of the 72 immortals of Jin Dong. Upon seeing the 72 immortals of Jin Dong for the first time, they instinctively felt the same reverence as they had toward the golden extreme god. They even felt that most of these individuals were stronger than the golden extreme god. Especially that person. Tian Hao, Yuan Songzi, and the others from the beginningless unconsciously locked their gaze on the Purple Dragon Star Monarch. The stature of the Purple Dragon Star Monarch was notably taller than the other Golden Cave Immortals, his aura overwhelmingly powerful. Looking at the Purple Dragon Star Monarch, their imagination of an invincible person materialized in that moment. Do you know what background he has? Purple Dragon Star Monarch asked emotionlessly, gazing at Guwen surrounded by demonic chi, his eyes unchanging and indifferent, as if not viewing Guwen as a concern. As soon as he finished speaking, the other Golden Cave Immortals suddenly erupted with their own aura. The entire heaven and earth shattered in an instant, turning into nothingness. All beings only felt as if everything before their eyes suddenly vanished, and they appeared out of nowhere in the cosmic void, while the immortal light of the 72 immortals of Jin Dong caught their gaze, preventing them from looking away, unable to think of anything else. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 627, Son of Heaven, gaining experience facing the encirclement of the 72 immortals of the Golden Cave, Gu En's demonic shadow remained calm, as if he had long anticipated the arrival of the 72 immortals of the Golden Cave. He did not answer the Purple Dragon Star Monarch. He felt that the Purple Dragon Star Monarch was not qualified to speak to him, and with things having gotten to this point, there was no misunderstanding to discuss. The target of the 72 immortals of the Golden Cave was Tian Hao, and as a master, Guwen naturally had to step forward. Moreover, the conflict between the immortal gods could also affect all living beings. Although Guwen didn't want to be a diligent savior, if he came across a calamity that absolutely couldn't be resolved by everyone else and he could easily resolve it, he wouldn't deliberately ignore it. Let it be considered the repayment for the many years of lifespan he had taken while secluding himself in this realm. Guwen turned around to face the Purple Dragon Star Monarch. The immortal lights of the other 71 Golden Cave Immortals converged, forming a formation superior to the mortal world, invoking the Tao rules, and discreetly suppressing Guwen. The Purple Dragon Star Monarch was a Tai Ching Golden Immortal, while the other Golden Cave Immortals were all heaven-balancing Golden Immortals. The formation they formed had already surpassed the limit that a Tai Ching Golden Immortal could withstand. Although it was not powerful enough to suppress a heaven-opening Daluo Immortal, it was sufficient to sweep through all existences beneath the Daluo Dao Fruit realm. This formation is the Golden Cave Absolute Immortal Array. No one except a Daluo Immortal can escape. A Golden Cave Immortal spoke with a proud tone. Why would a Daluo Immortal come to this realm? If their target was the same as theirs, why would they need to stay in the Celestial Spirit Great World? They could have already taken away the person they were trying to find. Cultivators, innate human race evil demons, and others watching from afar all watched the battle nervously, not daring to move. Tian Hao, Yuan Songzi, LV Xian, and Celestial Demon Child and others were curious about what a Daluo Immortal was. The people of Wuxia had indeed heard of this name from the books written by Guan. They quietly thought that indeed, the books the master wrote were not entirely fictional but were mythical stories that had truly happened. Zhu Guanghan looked at the 72 immortals of the Golden Cave, and his expression drastically changed as if he thought of something. He became extremely anxious and very much wanted to flee the place. Once the Golden Cave Absolute Immortal Array was deployed, those outside the formation could only feel the grandeur but could not personally experience the oppressing force. However, simply witnessing the immortal light of the Golden Cave Absolute Immortal Array made them feel their insignificance, as if they would be reduced to ashes upon mere contact with the immortal light. Gu N's demonic shadow remained silent, waiting for either the profound Residence Immortal Monarch or Tai Immortal Monarch. From a causal deduction perspective, it was unlikely that either of the two immortal monarchs would intervene, at least not in the short term. Guan looked at the 72 immortals of the Golden Cave, contemplating how to deal with them. To kill them was definitely impossible to accomplish thoroughly. Even if annihilated, they could be resurrected through heavenly Tao. It would be possible to seal them like he dealt with the celestial spirit god, preventing their resurrection and letting them endure the torment. Seeing that Guan refused to speak, the Golden Cave Immortals grew furious, and one burly Golden Cave Immortal immediately spoke, "Elder brother, destroy him. Since the person we are looking for is right before us, why worry so much? We are immortal gods." As immortal gods, they had absolute confidence. Becoming an immortal signified immortality, they would only fear other immortal gods. Facing someone of higher realm who wasn't an immortal god, they weren't scared at all. The celestial court was their greatest backing. Over the endless years, they had experienced innumerable tribulations and faced every possible scenario. The Purple Dragon Star Monarch deeply looked at Guan and nodded slightly. Seeing this, the 71 Golden Cave Immortals immediately took action, using their divine skills simultaneously. Their immortal light rapidly expanded, and wind, fire, thunder, and rain suddenly erupted, instantly engulfing Guan's figure. Boom, boom, boom. Inside the Golden Cave Absolute Immortal Array, deafening booming sounds erupted, dazzling lights flashed, creating a blinding spectacle that made it impossible to discern the specific situation inside the array. However, they could truly feel the terrifying aura of the Golden Cave Absolute Immortal Array. Yuan Songzi, Tian Hao, and others instinctively stepped back, an inherent impulse that could not be suppressed by reason, including Zhu Guanghan from the heaven-encompassing free immortal realm. They widened their eyes, reflecting the immortal light of the Golden Cave Absolute Immortal Array in their pupils, which trembled. They could no longer see Guan's figure, but the aura emanating from the Golden Cave Absolute Immortal Array made everything seem fragile. They couldn't imagine what kind of destruction such a terrifying presence would cause if it descended upon the celestial spirit great world. As great cultivators, the spectators felt that such an aura could turn the celestial spirit great world to ash, as they themselves couldn't withstand it at all. If such was the case outside the formation, what would it be like inside? Xianxia the Nelfire. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. As this thought emerged in everyone's minds, the Golden Cave Absolute Immortal Array suddenly dispersed, revealing Guan's figure, who reached out and grabbed. The 72 immortals of Jin Dong transformed into 72 beams of golden light that flew into his hand, quickly shrinking and disappearing without a trace. Following this, Guan clenched his fist, and 2 beams of purple light appeared on his face shrouded with demonic chi. The surrounding void abruptly changed, and the scarlet world reappeared, making everyone feel as if they were in a different era. By the time they regained their senses, Guan had vanished. The world fell silent, and the sound from the Golden Cave Absolute Immortal Array gradually disappeared. Even LV Xian and Celestial Demon Child were stunned. They had thought there would be a thrilling great battle, but it ended so quickly. Zhu Guanghan hovered in midair, also falling into a daze. He suddenly didn't know what to do. Dao court cultivators turned their gazes to him, equally at a loss, as they were no match for Zhu Guanghan. The sky was vast and the sea of clouds pristine, a rainbow hanging at the horizon. Below the rainbow stood a small pavilion, perched above the clouds, where two Taoists were playing a game of Go, though the pieces were not black and white. One of them, a white-haired man with handsome features, had his eyes covered with a silver ribbon and a golden pattern on his forehead. He wore a spotless white Dao robe, with a scroll floating behind him, its light flowing. The painting within depicted a shifting landscape. He was none other than Tai Immortal Monarch. Tai Immortal Monarch's right hand held a game piece between his fingers, not yet placed on the board, seemingly contemplating something. Sitting opposite him was a yellow-robed Taoist with an aged face, his hair a mix of black and white, and authority in his gaze. Golden-red halos floated around him like slender, lengthy scarves, and behind his head hovered a phantom image of two mysterious and majestic divine beasts intertwined. The yellow-robed Taoist spoke. "Do you really intend to interfere in the matters of celestial titles? There are many sons of heaven. Why care so much about one who has been exiled? Even sending the 72 immortals of Golden Cave." Tai Immortal Monarch responded, "It's true there are many sons of heaven, and many have been exiled, but he's different. He was once deeply favored, and now he has fallen into reincarnation. In my view, he's not being exiled but is undergoing trials. If it were truly an exile, there'd be no need to conceal the heavenly secrets." The yellow-robed Taoist shook his head and chuckled. Tai Immortal Monarch then placed his piece on the board. Not many sons of heaven can ascend to the palace of the Polestar, but he was able to write from birth. I will never forget the scene of thousands of immortals surrounding him. The yellow-robed Taoist teased with a smile. "For that, you would contend with Profound Star Immortal Monarch? You should know that Profound Star Immortal Monarch has backing. As long as it does not violate celestial rules, what does a big backing matter?" Tai Immortal Monarch retorted. Suddenly, he frowned, the golden pattern on his forehead shining brightly. The yellow-robed Taoist picked up a game piece, smiling as he asked, "What's wrong?" After a moment of silence, Tai Immortal Monarch said, "The 72 immortals of Jin Dong failed. The one who acted has an unfathomably high cultivation level. They did not test his depth. The only certainty is that he lacks the destiny of the celestial court." The yellow-robed Taoist's interest was piqued, and he smiled. Those daring to oppose the celestial court are indeed rare. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible.